Happy man at the moment. I'm being entertained.
No grumbles here. The gap from first to second there is our race leader, Loic Duval. He's about 14 seconds ahead of David Brabham, and Stefan Sarrazin is a ways back in third place on board here with David Brabham. And this car has just been running like clockwork. It's, as we've heard Duncan Dayton say, we've been talking about all day long. It's a brand new car, just 1 week old today since it was delivered in this form. And they've had very little track time before this race, so they've done a fine job. It sounds absolutely crisp as a nut, as it has done since the green flag fell, and David Brabham and Simon Pagenaud have been doing a stellar job along with Marino Franchitti, and they're looking to well, they're on the podium, on course for a podium finish right now. Can they get any better than that? Well, I certainly wouldn't count them out. I think, as we go into night time, this car might come into its own, perhaps even a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see.
Now, remember some time ago, oh my goodness me, this is another left rear puncture, and this is a car that's had problems before. This is the 018, which is the Performance Tech Motorsports car. What an eventful afternoon in completely the wrong way for them, and they've got a long way to go around the circuit, about 2/3 of the way. Needs to slow down just a tad here. Now, is that more contact? Oh, slow down, please. Oh no, that's just gone down. You can see that starting to go down. Look at the tyre deforming, and then bang! The tyre the tread just delaminating immediately from the rest of the carcass, the inside part of the carcass.
We've seen that quite a bit, aren't we? Did a great job to keep that car under control.
Absolutely marvellous.
I think that's Anthony Nicolosi. I'm not 100% sure. But whoever it was did a fine job to keep that car under control, and hopefully can get it back to Jarrett Boone again, is it? Okay.
He's been in there a long time if it is Jarrett Boone, but I'm not going to argue with the graphics. He is trundling happily back. Actually, going quite a decent clip there down the back straight. I don't think this is going to bring out a full course caution if the rest of the tyre stays together. It's only on the outside bead at the moment. What you can't see from that shot is it's gone away completely from the inner part of the rim. Yeah, the tricky bit's now going to be getting around this right-hander, isn't it? Slow down. To get it into the pit lane. Slow down. And the GT leader comes in. Joey Han brings the BMW M3 number 56 into the pit lane, and waiting for him is his crew and Richter Brühl.
You know, think about it. Low those many hours ago in the first hour when they had that flat, and Bobby Rahal came on the radio and said, that's okay, just go out, have fun, maybe the race will come to us. That's exactly what's happened. They had some fun. The race has come back to them. They're going to go ahead and get everything fueled in first. Make a quick driver change. They've got tires ready as well. The teammate car, which was the second place car, the other BMW, had come in just a few moments ago. They had a very uneventful pit stop. They got back out. Now this car, the 56 car, which is leading in class, which has had some great battles during the course of the day, but every time they have a battle, it always seems to come back to them. They have a nice, easy pit stop. They've said they've had no problems all day, and again, they're back out.
Well, that's a scheduled green flag pit stop, and through has gone Mika Salo and Augusta Farfus, and we've now got to see that GT field cycle through its pit stops again, and they will be coming. Bobby Rahal, though, called it absolutely right, didn't he? Don't panic, lads. Yeah, long way to go.
Yeah, he's been around the block a few times, hasn't he? Both in open wheel racing and in sports cars. He's won just about everything there is to win, in actual fact. And he's bringing that experience to bear here on this team at Sebring. And, just stay calm, do the job. They've got, that team is full of professional drivers. A yellow flag out down there.
Yeah, down local towards turn 7. And there it is. It's the Kelly Moss Motorsports GTC car, the Green Hornet, which has overshot the hairpin. In the background there you can see the line of the old circuit. It used to go right up to those blue and white barriers there. Oh dear, that's had quite an impact. Pulled off the rear valance of that normally pristine, and it's a beautiful paint job on that car as well, and it's looking again a little bit pre-owned. If you missed your breaking point for the hairpin in the old days, you'd be paying to get back in again. So you went so far. That's always, if you could manage to vault the fence, of course. Many tried, in fact. The new turn 7 put in for safety reasons some years ago, and look at the damage there. That may have just been pulled off by a wild ride across the uneven grassed area on the outside. That's some very expensive bits of Porsche. That is the right rear tail light. I can give you the part number if you want. I can almost read it from there. But it's got to be said that the 34 car has picked back up to speed. I don't see anything particularly wrong with the tyres. They've all got air in them. And he's keeping up a race speed as he's passed by Mike Rockenfeller.
Yeah, and after that round, well, before the last round of pit stops for those two Audis, they've been almost nose to tail, with Rockenfeller chasing Alan McNish for all he was worth since that pit stops. There's quite a spread between those two cars, and they both just took on tyres. So why does that?
No tyres.
No tyres, I should say. Absolutely right. Thank you. But there's now 55 seconds between those two cars, and I can't quite figure out why there's that big of a gap between them.
Are you
Although
sure
Rocky's
that,
only 56 again there, but what?
Are you sure that Rocky didn't take tyres?
No, I'm pretty sure he didn't.
Right, okay. He hasn't stopped again, Rockenfeller, has he? You haven't noticed, although that's not quite enough, is it? It's in that sort of no man's land between not enough to have made 2 stops, but too long for one. Let's have a look from Alan McNish's perspective in the number 2 car. McNish still just 6 laps behind the leader, 5.5, 6 laps behind the leader as he comes around turn number 17. And for another 3.7 miles, he won't have to look into the sun. As the leader, Loic Duval, into the pit lane, right on schedule, according to Jeremy's notepad. Let's go down to the pit lane and pick up a report.
As a Highcroft Honda ARX 01E makes its way down to pit road, they're expecting just fuel only on this pit stop for David Brabham. But there are a number of differences to this car over last year's. It's a little bit longer, has a new aluminum gearbox. The tires are taller and wider, but one thing that will start to come into play here is they've got some new headlamps. They put on these new sort of rally-style headlamps. The team told me that drivers had complained in the past that they just weren't getting enough light. The visibility was too bad at night, so they made the adjustment, and this will be the real first test to see if it's a big improvement or not. You can see they're doing something there with David on his helmet, making some sort of adjustment while they fuel, or getting him some fluid. He probably wasn't, he probably was not getting some anything from his drink bottle. You can imagine he'd want that as he's doing these double and triple stints.
David there, not happy, just waved them away. Don't worry about it, I can live without it. Just stalls for a moment. Loic Duval just trickling down the pit lane in the beautiful gloaming light there. The almost Etruscan orange itself now, isn't it? God, obviously a sports car fan when you see the blues and oranges. That is an absolutely classic shot here at Sebring as Brabham rejoins. Either that or Mother Nature, take your pick depending on your beliefs. Brabham scored as the leader on that lap, of course, because he had to go further down pit lane and trip the start-finish line timing and scoring beam, but effectively nothing has changed at the head of the... Oh my goodness me, Mathieu Lehare! Oh, no. Mathieu Lehare, this is the 4th place car. I've cursed him, I'm very, very sorry. We shouldn't have mentioned it. That car had run like clockwork. This is the 15, the Oak Racing Judd. Oh, man alive. 3 hours and 22 minutes to go. And the young Frenchman, absolutely, you can see there he's distraught. He's got a problem with his left foot, the right foot, excuse me. So has something happened inside the car, or has he hit something and done himself some damage? I'm wondering if something spilled on it in the car. He's running water down it, and we're being told there was no damage there. I wonder if something's been running down his boot and burnt, and maybe some fluid or something, but I'm not sure what would be in the front of the car, in the pedal box at that point. Yeah, that's an odd. I've had oil on my feet before when I've been doing my odd races, but that's when I've had an engine in front of me. Hot oil on your race boots is not a fun thing to do. not good for the pedals either. Oh, this is further up the leg as well, and clearly he feels there's some foreign substance on his leg that is giving him discomfort, also on his race suit, and he's trying to get himself washed off there. Meantime, the Peugeot number 8 back out on the circuit.
Yep. Reassumed the lead has Stefan Sarrazin, and the gap back to Loic Duval is shown right now. There's only 6 seconds when Duval came out of the pits, so we'll have to see, have a look back down the road. Maybe we can see the second place car, but you know, it's just as the pit stops take place, then you know the order shuffles around. But you know, it's pretty much status quo at the moment. But that's Stefan Sarrazin now in front, and we'll see now whether Loic Duval can make any inroads into that advantage that his fellow Frenchman has.
Sarrazin is a rare talent from almost a different era. There is Loic Duval, and there's the gap. That's what 6.5 seconds looks like around Sebring. Stefan Sarrazin, we had a greeting earlier on from Quick Vic Elford, who one of my heroes. Oh, there is the Sebring shot again. He would drive anything, and Sarrazin's pretty much the same, Jeremy, isn't he? It's tarmac, sports cars, GTs, rally cars, you name it. And in fact, Simon Pagenaud had a crack at rallying for the first time recently. Now, we haven't seen the fourth. This is the new 4th place car now. Chris Dyson getting out. And the 016 is the 2-litre Mazda with the turbocharger on it, and that's Jay Cochran getting into the car, new member of the team this year.
Jay Cochran's driven a lot of cars in the past. He's 38 years old. He's a Florida guy from Palm Beach area. Did a lot of racing, particularly mainly in single-seaters some time ago there, but he also has made a couple of ALMS starts. Back in 2001 he had a couple of runs in the Panos, in actual fact, but this is his first time back in the American LMS Series since then. In fact, he's done next to nothing since then. But he's worked hard to get this opportunity again to get back into the seat, into the saddle. He's been wanting to do it for a long, long time. You can hear that car bucking around there with a pit lane speed limiter. This is Jay's second stint in this race. He did a nice job in the first stint, and that car running absolutely beautifully there in 4th place.
You see him now with his right hand flinging with one finger, doing the gear changes. Just a tiny movement, as if you were playing a video game or something similar. And I do like this delivery, just slightly tweaked from last year for the new G Oil sponsorship, but also I do like the black wheels. I think that really does look pretty cool. And please can I have one of the models. In 6th position and dropping down now, Mathieu Lehay was in 4th place. We've seen the car pulled off at the side of the racetrack. Oak Racing, such a disappointment for them. Kelly Stavis, what's the problem?
Well, it was very disappointing, and after he pulled off, you may have seen him get out of the car and sort of shake his leg and pour some water on it. Well, they had a fuel leak inside the cockpit. But I talked to the team. They said that he is okay. Yeah, probably didn't feel too good, got a little hot, but they said that he is okay. That's the good news.
And that was what we saw him do. Fuels leak inside the cockpit, so maybe sloshing around there. It's an awful thing to have. Doesn't matter even if you. I remember doing a charity kart race some time ago, and Kelvin Burt was one of my teammates, and he had fuel sloshing around on his knees. You know, where the tank is in the cart, and he managed to last nearly an hour doing that. That was an Ironman thing to do. Now here's the Dyson car back out, getting up to speed with Jay Cochran at the wheel, up into 4th position now in P1. Essentially the P2 configuration, which has had some work done on it. Nice illumination on the numbers there as they're catching the sunlight going down the Ullman Straight.
And that was Alan McNish just going past Jay Cochran, and that actually moves Alan McNish back onto the same lap as Jay Cochran. So he's got 3.77 miles now, Alan McNish, to make up before he can make up one more position. Alan McNish is already back up into 5th place. He's only 5 laps behind the race leader, so Audi has, as ever, called the strategies well. It made up at least a lap or two. And that car's still running absolutely beautifully. Alan McNish is turning some very quick laps, and for some reason Mike Rockenfeller has just not been able to keep pace with Alan McNish during this stint on these particular sets of tyres.
There is the Lola that we're following around. Classic shape of sports car, that. I do think it's a very pretty little car, or pretty car, should I say. Jay Cochran, nice big windscreen. One of the better sight lines, actually. You can even see that from the onboard of the closed cockpit cars. If you look at the Peugeot, particularly the A-pillar, the first pillar, is much further in the driver's eye line. You see a lot less in the peripheral vision. Watch the fingers again as he changes gears with the paddle shift. And he's very important here at Sebring to be able to keep both hands on the steering wheel at all time. And the GT runners getting the advantage of that. Just on his second lap out, settling himself down in the seat and pulling the belts down just a little bit tighter. Just take you just a lap or two, Jeremy, doesn't it, to find that comfortable position within the seat, and you have to get it because you just can't drive these cars and be thrown around with the kind of G-forces they're getting if you're not comfortable.
And particularly when you don't drive regularly, as Jay Cochran has not done for an awful long time. So it's going to take him definitely a few laps to get really comfortable again in this car. And this is one of the most difficult tracks to make you come back on after a long layoff, isn't it?
We noticed he's dropping the visor down when he's driving down the back straight, just shading his eyes with the very black, dark plexiglass visor or Lexan visor that he's got on his helmet, and then he'll push it back up again at this part of the circuit. I would think that going down towards 7, you might just see him take one hand off the steering wheel any second now and just ease it down so that he can spot his braking position. Actually, the sun's going down quite quickly now. Yeah,
I guess he drew the short straw in this team, didn't he, to send him out now in these conditions, the most difficult conditions of the race, with the sun just about to set over the western horizon. It's really, really tough, and I'm actually quite surprised that Dyson Racing would send out Jay at this time of the day.
Well, let's find out from the guy with his name above the door. Chris Dyson is with Kelly Stavist.
And Chris just climbed out of that. We see the sun going down very quickly, and we're watching your teammate Jay Cochran use the visor, and it seems like he's battling. What was it like for you out there with the glare?
I couldn't see a thing for the last probably 7 or 8 laps going down the back straight and into the hairpin. It was really challenging. Into the hairpin, it was probably a bit better because you got the bridge as a reference point, and the road surface changes. So I was kind of driving by braille. But no, it's the G-Oil mod space, Construct Core Mazda has really been good to us today. We haven't had the pace, but the team has executed beautifully, and they put us in a position where, with the help of the Dunlop tires, we've been able to ascend the order. So I'm really pleased with the effort so far.
When I talked to your other teammate, Guy Smith, he kind of said this is basically a P2 car running in the P1 class, and really we just need to get some championship points out of it. So to be up there running 4th, is this sort of even a better result than you could have imagined, given the competition?
We figured if we could get into the top 6 or 7, we'd be doing well. And obviously the guys that were a bit faster decided to make it a warfare early on, and we're knocking each other off the road. It didn't hurt my feelings to see them in the fence, but we're happy to be doing the job we're doing this weekend because we don't feel like we've had the pace with the regulations, but I think we've transcended it as a team and really come together and done our best this weekend.
All right, that 16 Mazda running 4th. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, good to see. I haven't had the best of luck at Sebring over the years. This car is certainly coming together as a package. They've run it for a full season now, and they know it inside out. A good partnership with Dunlop. And Jay Cochran doing a pretty good job. He's got down to decent times straight away, Jeremy, and very difficult. This is what they call the transition in motor racing circles, and none of the drivers like to do this. Well, actually, I say that. I remember Emmanuel Pirro saying, I'd much rather get in when it was light and get out when it was dark than get straight in when it was dark, interestingly. Some drivers do like the challenge of it, but it's that low sun that makes it, again, it's another feature. Oh, I'll tell you what, that's great driving by Cochran there to get himself off a very bad situation with the AF Corsa car. So 8 hours and 48 minutes. Stefan Sarrazin leads by 8.3 seconds. Lucas Ordonez, the PlayStation gamer of 2 years ago, is in the class lead for P2. It's the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
Pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
That says only one thing to me. Sebring, Florida, March, 12 Hours of Sebring. Stefan Sarazan leading in the number 8 Peugeot. And that low sun, the orange sky. Headlights just beginning to show now through the gathering darkness. And of course, at this time of the year, Jeremy, it does, when it goes to dark quite quickly. The sun, once it's gone down, bang, it's gone. It's almost like flicking a switch. Yeah, pretty much so. The clock's changed here. A couple of weeks ago. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago now. So we do at least get a bit more daylight than we had then. So that's good. But you're right. The sun does tend to go down fairly quickly. Now spotted from the truck there. We have got a problem for that Peugeot, because if you think back a little while, this is the leading car. If you think back, I was talking earlier on about some of the new initiatives incorporated in the American Le Mans Series, because this is a round of the ALMS. And one of them is, your louvers are loose anywhere on the car, you can't fix them. Oh, that's a whole bunch of them have been, a whole lot of them, excuse me, have been punched off, probably by some tyre debris. You can't repair them with racer tape. That nose is going to have to be changed at the next pit stop. It won't be pulled in, that car. It is not a mechanical issue, but what it does mean is that car will not be allowed to leave pit lane before it's been fixed. And Peugeot have had problems in this area before. The rear louvers at the legality panels behind the rear wheels at Silverstone 1000 Ks a couple of years ago cost them a race victory. In the last pit stop before the end of the race, they lost a part of the, in fact they're losing the part of that as well. So the bumps of Sebring, look at the back end on the left hand side of that leading Peugeot, and that is rattling around as well. So front at the top of the fenders, the louvers going there, bottom at the back rattling around on the left hand side as well. So Peugeot are going to have to make some decisions. You can see that it's come. The louvers there on the front are flapping in the breeze, and the bottom part of the, well, that Total sign is that he's come away from the rest of the bodywork and is flapping around as well. Now the danger there is if that box comes off from behind the wheel, that makes the catch called a legality panel. It has to be there. It's there, that's so you're not allowed to see in the regulations, the ACO regulations, you're not allowed to be able to see any part of the tyre when you stand behind the car. That's why it's there. It's to stop pieces of rubber actually being thrown out. Think of it as like a mud flap, actually, or a crud catcher if you're a motorcyclist. It's the same sort of idea. It's to try and keep any bits of rubber or debris from getting thrown up into people's windscreens or onto their helmets. Rick de Bruyne is down in the pit lane. Rick.
Just want to talk about what the team is doing. They've been watching the coverage on this as well with their screens on their monitors. As you were talking about, they began to notice, by the way, they appreciate the little telestrator kind of pointed to what was going on. And just a moment ago, one of the officials came up and started to talk to them about it. And they went, oh, yeah, we know already. So they're already getting ready. The question is, how much work are they going to have to do? Realizing these parts come off pretty darn quickly, but they're still going to have that time in the pit stop after they do all the other work they would normally do. They're going to have to replace the nose, and they're going to have to look at potentially replacing the back end. Realize that back end does come off very quickly as well.
And Stefan Sarrazin, he is on a slightly different pit strategy than the two cars directly behind him, number 10 and the 01, but he's only got a 7-second advantage at the moment over Loic Duval in that car right there, the middle car, car number 10, the Team Orica Matmut Porsche Peugeot 908, and that car has been running the same sort of pace as Stefan Sarrazin for a long, long time. I don't expect to see the race leader into the pit lane for another 8 or 9 laps probably, but then it's going to be a longer pit stop than it would otherwise have. But of course, that's why you come here to Sebring. This is the roughest track on which they race. If anything's going to happen, this is going to be the place.
Now this is Mike Rockenfeller, had an awful first part of the race with 2 very nasty punctures in quick succession on the left rear, but the Audis are back up to pace now, and they've been crawling back gently, quietly, steadily up into the top 6. Mike Rockenfeller in the 1 car, coming to unlap himself from Loic Duval. And as Jeremy said earlier, the strategy has been played well by Audi, and they've not let the Peugeots get away. Yes, they've had their problems. Yes, it's cost them time, in Mike Rockenfeller's case, behind the wall, never mind in the pit lane, but they are still within striking distance, just 5 or 6 laps away. And remember, that's only 12 minutes here around Sebring. Let's get back down the pit lane for some more.
One car that's still within striking distance in LMP1 is the Orica Peugeot. And Nicolas Lapierre, you're going to do the next in the car. But when you guys arrived here, it's been a story of the old versus the new. You're in the older Peugeot. What advantage has that given you throughout the race?
We have a good pace compared to the other Peugeot. It's very close. Now the main difficulty will be the cold. The track will be cold, so we're going to switch on different tires. I hope we do it quite quickly. I think when I get back in the car, we change the tires and we try something different because the track is very cold now. We try to stay in the same lap than the Acura and the Peugeot 8. Very important for us, and I think the difference will be on the last hour, so we need to be ready for that.
What is the goal for the end of this race? There are only a few hours remaining and you guys are still in the fight, so what will the strategy be?
We are in a position where we can win this race, so that's the aim. So we will do our best to do it. We need to be ready for the war at the end of the last hour, and you know, we need to be on the good tires, have the fuel inside the car. It's going to be all about strategy.
Now, we knew from the order that you were actually not going to be next in the car, but you told me that you are going to be next. Why the change in the driver order?
Because I did a lot of running on the night during the practice, so I think it's better that I jump in the car now. That's the plan of the team.
Right. Thank you. It's all about strategy.
Yeah, good question, Jeremy. Jeremy pointed that out up here, and that's very interesting that they feel they're in with a shot. You've got to say as well, as the works cars are not battling the Audis, this probably is one of the best chances for Hugh de Schonack, the chef d'équipe and the owner of Orica, to take an overall victory here. And what a story this would be in the first round of the American Le Mans Series, and indeed for those guys, more importantly, the first round of the ALMS, to take a victory in one of the grandfathered cars. Now, the 002 has been caught again for pit lane infringement, and it's another speeding violation. This time it'll be stop and go plus 1 minute.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Not good news for those guys. Guy Cosmo currently at the wheel of the 002 car, running in 7th place in GT, a couple of laps behind the leaders in that class. And right now it's still Andy Prio leading that class in the car number 56 for BMW. Giancarlo Fisichella in car number 51 in 2nd place.
The LMP2 leader is in the pit lane. This is the Signatech Orica with the Nissan engine. And that's gradually been getting back. There was electronic problems with the gearbox that put them a long way down, but Lucas Ordonez has brought them back up into contention, and Jamie is down there.
Looks like a pretty standard stop right now. Sahil Ayari helping out on this pit stop. He was holding the drink bottle out for his co-driver. The fuel's still going in to this car. The team has taken the advantage. They cleaned off the headlights, make sure they keep everything going, and they are going to double stint these tires. But right now it looks like he can't get it restarted. The crew helping him out. Telling him which button to press. Figured out, he's out and underway.
12-lap lead for Lucas Ordonez. Remember, just a couple of years ago, he was on a sofa. Now he's at Sebring. He'll be at Le Mans for the 24 hours. Inaugural winner of the Nissan GT Academy, which has just had its first year just in its first year in the United States. 2 years in Europe, went from 25,000 entries in the first year to 1.3 million in the second. Do you think that was a success, Jeremy?
I think it probably was.
Count as a success.
It's certainly a wonderful opportunity that it presented for Lucas Ordonez, and boy, has he taken full advantage of that. He's obviously got an immense amount of latent ability there. It's taken no time at all to bring that to the fore.
In a even in a GT car, you would say it was a big step up, but to go so quickly to a prototype, car control, slip angles, all that sort of thing, it's not something that everybody understands. Even if you're a spirited road driver, even if you've done track tests, even if you think of yourself as a bit of a, dare I say it, a boy racer, and he had no background in that.
No, I mean, and a couple of years in GT4, and here he is now in a P2 prototype.
At Sebring.
Leading and doing
class.
A fine job too.
And I misspoke, actually. He has a 4-lap lead, so he can't ease off quite as much as he thought he could, so he's going to have to push on just a little bit more. My problem reading the timing and scoring monitor, so I may have just panicked everybody down there in the Signatech team, but you have a 4-lap lead at the moment, guys, so you can't quite get the cup of tea on and the kettle brewing at the moment. What's impressed me about this young man is the ability, and we talked to Frank Maillot about him, didn't we, on Friday, Jeremy. It would be easy to be arrogant and think, well, I'm obviously a tremendously talented driver, but he has been listening to his very, very good co-drivers.
He has, and he and Frank Maillot and Sohail Ayari, the other two, got a goodly amount of experience. Let's go down to the pit lane and Rick de Bruyne.
Yeah, the number 59 has come in, and that looks like fairly routine for the time being, but they, on the left rear, for a moment they appeared to have a problem, but now they're sending them back out. The 458s, I have to tell you, look absolutely beautiful. What's been most interesting in talking with the teams that are running them, they said the cars arrived race ready. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of little things they had to do, but unlike the 430 that had a lot of work that had to go into them, the 458s were ready to race.
So back out into the fray, it's a nice job. I haven't talked about GT for a while, so let's just run through those as we've got the GT, one of the GT cars, the luxury racing car, just about to be passed by. The leader, and Sarrazin has to lose a little bit of time. Patience, courage, mon brave. As the sun continues to set and give cameras coming out all around the circuit, I can feel at the moment. So in GT, the leader in GT, 8th position overall, with just under 3 hours to go. We head into the final quarter. Andy Priaulx, multiple World Touring Car Champion, leads in the 56 BMW from Giancarlo Fisichella in second place. There's Andy in the Crown Plaza BMW M3. Andy, the man from the Channel Islands, from Guernsey, and do you know what? This is why I know that I'm getting old, and I've been around for a long time. He was a hill climb champion in the United Kingdom, driving ridiculously powerful single-seaters up roads that you wouldn't want to cycle up or down. And he got a break at a British touring car meeting. One of the drivers went sick, and he had the opportunity of getting into a front-wheel drive 2-litre touring car. It was at Alton Park up in Cheshire. And not only did he jump into a front-wheel drive car that he'd never driven before, never having driven a competition front-wheel drive car, he put it on pole position for his first outing. Developed his career in touring cars, picked up by BMW, and really he's never looked back. He's done some endurance racing before at places like the Nürburgring 24, and he's been a sometime member of the BMW endurance team when they've come to places like here at Sebring and Petit Le Mans, and of course made his Le Mans debut last year. Now we're looking at the front end of the pristine front end of the number 8 Peugeot, with a full set of louvres, which will be replacing the current front end, which has just lost another louvre of Stefan Sarrazin's car.
Couple or 3 laps, I expect that car onto pit lane, car number 8. That will pit several laps before the 2nd and 3rd place currently cars of number 10 Loic Duval and 01 of David Brabham.
Now, Bob Barfield has told us, our race director, that they won't pull a car in for having loose louvres, but there are bits of bodywork being shed from that car now and we've just seen a full louver disappear, and that's carbon fibre. And then the officials will be looking at that very carefully, because clearly you can't be driving a car around where there's pieces of bodywork dropping off. I'll be interested to see when they come in as well, Jeremy, whether they risk leaving that lower rear valance zone. The left-hand side clearly not fastened on properly, as Mike Rockefeller is in the pit lane. Looks like it's going to be a set of tyres for the one car as well, and a new set of Michelins go on.
I don't think Rocky was quite so happy with that set of tyres. He wasn't able to lap as consistently quickly as he has been on the previous set, and as a consequence lost quite a lot of ground to Alan McNish in their sort of battle for 5th and 6th places.
Tear-offs from the headlights to give Rocky a decent view. Did you see how violently that car drops down from its air jacks? Bang, and it's on the ground. With little or no suspension travel, that actually, after a while, might get a bit wearing on the bottom of your back, I would have thought. As he gets back up to speed. And we're waiting for Stefan Sarazan to come in from the lead of the race with 4.232 seconds of a lead the last time around to Loic Duval. And in fact, here he is, he's the leader. He can't hold on to the lead here. What is key is how long the additional work is going to take. The leader into the pit lane. Loic Duval has just gone through and taken the lead for Orica Matmut. Let's go down to the pit lane. There'll be more than standard work going on this Peugeot.
The Peugeot comes to a stop. They're going to make a big change. They're also going to change drivers as well. This is a full change. Now, I should point out, they only have a new nose ready. They do not have a rear valance ready. You had talked about the possibility. They thought there was a concern as to whether there was some problem with the back. They are not, at least at this point, preparing to do that. You can see that they're putting the fuel in. They're making the driver change, doing all the work that they need to do before they can start the mechanical work, because all the fuel has to go in first. Once they do that, they're going to start cranking away, and we'll see how quickly they can go. There, the fuel is out. Now they're going to go ahead and change the tires, because they got to get that done first, because they can't do both, because there's a limited number of people allowed over the wall. They've changed the front tires on the left side. They've changed the rear tire on the right side. Now they move to the other tires. In the meantime, now what they're going to do is they're going to start taking off the tape that is securing the body panels on as well. Now they go to move to the nose, putting the wrench in. And once again, this is something you can normally do in just a few seconds. But when the time is tight and you're really trying to under the gun to get it done, sometimes you just can't get that wrench in there just right. We were talking earlier. They said it should take 10 seconds to pull one of these off. As you can tell, it's taking a lot more. They got the wrench in. Now they put the new nose on. It took about 20 seconds so far, and they still haven't gotten tightened up. What they have not done is looked at the rear of the vehicle. It took 25.7 just to change the nose. That did not count the rest of the pit stop.
Yeah, nice work on the stopwatch, Rick, as well. Two quick releases they weren't releasing, and they weren't quick on the two bolts on the nose. The tape they took off was over the top of the catches, of course. All of the gaps they pushed down with tape.
Wow.
Oh, he's gone off! He's gone off! That's Pedro Lamy, who just got in the car, and he's looped it in turn 3. Cold tyres, we've seen this before with Peugeot, and here comes Tom Christensen to unlap himself from the former leader. And Audi are not out of this at all, are they? Laps down, but also David Brabham will be benefiting from this. He's already gone through in second place. So it's Audi Matmut, Orica number 10, with Loic Duval leading by 37 seconds from David Brabham in second place for the 01 Highcroft car. We've got a race to the finish here.
Yes, we have.
Now, what happened to Pedro Lamy? Was it just a mistake on cold tyres? He's on his own there, coming into turn 3. Bump, bump, bump. Let's get on the power now, Pedro. Oh, yes, it was. Oh, and he's flat. He may well have flat spotted that new set of Michelins. He's sideways and locked up for a very, very long time there. That is a very uncharacteristic error from Pedro Lamy.
Yeah, the tyres are still cold, of course, so they'll just sort of slide across the surface, hopefully not damage the tyres too much, but that is not what you want to do with a brand new set of Michelin tyres. And Pedro Lamy now, he's under a fair bit of pressure. He was already sitting in the car there, anxious to get going again, and now he's made a mistake on his first lap out as well. He's not going to be feeling too good with himself right at this moment.
No tyre warmers, remember. You're not allowed to use them in sports car racing. Jake Cochran is right up behind him now. Now, he is the next car on the timing and scoring monitor, but he's 4 laps behind at the moment. But Cochran will be thinking, hello, what's going on here? I didn't expect to come up against Pedro Lamy. I'm catching him up. I must be way better than I thought I was.
And we saw Tom Christensen there go past. So Tom Christensen obviously has just taken over from Alan McNish. We didn't see that pit stop, but that has just happened as well. So TK is now in 5th place. He's still about a lap but behind the Jay Cochran car, but pushing on hard.
That was his first lap out of the pits, Jeremy, when he went by Pedro Lamy. Timo Bernhardt, by the way, has taken over the #1 car for Mike Rockenfeller. We didn't mention that earlier on either. So it's Loic Duval from David Brabham, the 10, the 1-0 from the 0-1. There's a bit of symmetry there. Work with me. I've been here a long time now. Oh, and the Kelly Moss car is off again, the 0-3-4, with Peter Lesafra at the wheel of it. And he's got more damage on the rear end, I think, and it looks like there's a bit of flame there on the right rear.
I think that's just firing up the engine there, don't you?
Not sure, Jeremy. I think there's flame there. It's either brake fire or something more sinister. I think there's something inside the wheel there. Maybe picked up a bit of grass and dirt on the hot brakes.
Scary.
Now, you've got to pick your time to pull out. Not yet. Wait. Oh, all right then now. Now, he's lost the rear light cluster earlier on. We know that's down in front of Chateau Elan. Let's have a look. Where was he?
A bit busy.
Whoa. Oh, that's TK. And that's going to be I think that's going to be a stop-go penalty for TK. And that is one unhappy Peter Lesafra. Now, let's have a look at the far side of this if we can. Look at all the debris underneath that car. The damage at the back, most of that was done already from the earlier off.
And it's sort of got a light on either side on the back of that car, I suppose.
Yeah, and he's just left the campfire burning. Keep the home fires burning, Peter. I will be astounded if that doesn't get TK a penalty for avoidable contact. He's got some lights on the back of that car. They're not at each corner, though, are they? If you were going to the regulations, exactly. He's down in 6th position in the class, coming in for full service, new set of tyres, and it looks like Peter's going to get out. René Rast is up on the 34th position. That's 13th in GT in the 040 car. This is the Robertson Racing. In the 048 car, the Paul Miller Racing car that he's sharing with Sasha Masson and Bryce Miller. That car hasn't really shown as I thought it might. René Rast is the current Porsche Super Cup champion. Sasha Masson needs no introduction, so I won't. And Bryce Miller can certainly hold his own around a racing circuit, but they just don't seem to have had the handle on the car at all in the last 9 hours and 11 minutes.
It's a new car to them. They're stepping up into the GT class this season. They've got a new partner with Yokohama tyres, so I think there's a lot of a pretty steep learning curve going on there for those guys. But there's a lot of talent in that team. Bryce Miller, he's a talented young driver. He's decided to make a career for himself in sports car racing, and he's got a lot of ability.
So this is going to be a longer than average pit stop for the 034 after that excursion across the grass. And I'm guessing that Tom Christensen has got away with one here, because normally if there's going to be a penalty it's called very quickly. And
I think they'll want to review everything and make sure they make the right call.
There's an onboard on that car as well, of course, so
it's a tricky part of the track there, isn't it? Because the road is winding around it. It's not as if it's a straight piece of road, so you want to make sure you've got to get called right before you make it.
No, absolutely, particularly when he's in 5th place and he's charging back through the field. But the one thing I'll say about IMSA, they have always been very, very good indeed at calling them quick.
This is a battle for 2nd place in GT, with Giancarlo Fisichella in the Ferrari car number 51, and hot on his heels there, the BMW of Augusto Farfus. This battle's been raging right from the drop of the green flag, hasn't it? It's been a wonderful battle to watch, and Andy Prio, he's about 25 seconds farther up the road in the lead of the GT class.
The voice there of Jeremy Shaw. I'm John Hindhaugh. This is the American Le Mans Series and the ALMS, the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup from Sebring International Raceway in Florida. Good to have your company.
Here comes, we're going to see the straight line speed again of the BMW versus the Ferrari. Looks like it.
Yeah, okay, which way?
Big run here, Augusto Farfus. Wow, drives right past him.
No, okay, that's the 430, and we know that the 458 is a bit slipperier and a bit quicker and a bit lighter, but goodness me, that was actually... he's coming to the pit lane. Okay. The Ferrari's in the pit lane. Either that or he's been beamed up by Scotty. There he goes. Giancarlo Fisichella does in fact come into the pit lane. And third place in GT car with the 3 green lights on the side. That's an easy way for even us announcers to make sure we're talking about the right car, some of the time at least. Full service, new set of tyres, and Jamie is making her way down towards that car in the pit lane.
Full service, it looks like, for the AF Corsa team, and that will allow Antonio Garcia to move up into 3rd place in the cars in the GM Chevy Corvette.
Pretty neat stop so far from the AF Corsa guys. They've got to be happy at what's been going on.
Slight problem locating that left front wheel.
Yeah, not the first time we've seen that in any of the closed fender cars today, prototype or GT.
And with the right rear.
Kind of balanced it up.
Cost them a couple of seconds, but you know,
no more. And you know, they've been out there for 10 hours.
Yeah.
Like everybody else. So
well, more than that. The warm-up was at 8 o'clock, wasn't it?
Exactly, good point. Have you ever tried to lift one of those wheels?
Yeah, really.
You know, they throw them around as if you think, it's an alloy race wheel with a bit of rubber on it. How bad can it be? Yeah, well, try and lift one, I tell you. And then get it on the splines without jamming your fingers and... Ooh.
When you've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning and it's now 7:45 at night.
Yeah.
2 hours and 45 minutes to go. The length of an average American Le Mans Series event.
Yep, absolutely. The standard length of an ALMS contest, and the AF Corsa car is back into the fray. This broadcast from Sebring, the start of the new digital era. We started 13 years. Oh, hang on a second. There's a problem with the left-hand side, the passenger side door on that car. No, it's the rear window. It's the rear window on the right-hand side has come away and it's flapping. And how the heck has that happened? But that's going to pull back. It's getting pulled further and further back, and eventually that's just going to pop off. There's a NACA duct or an intake duct there that you can see that helps cool the rear brakes or the rear oil cooler. I can't remember which one it is on the 430, but that is sticking out. I'm pretty certain that they're going to have to pull that car back in.
It's a knackered duct now, I'm afraid. And that'll certainly cost them speed on the straightaways as well. And I don't, we didn't see that certainly before that pit stop. So
no, I just saw it shaking loose in the headlights of the car behind. Problem with that is he won't be allowed to run without that window because you get a vacuum effect inside the car. And although there's a bulkhead, well, he might be allowed to run without that window because there's a bulkhead behind the driver. Normally, if you've got a rear window in the car, you wouldn't be allowed to do that in case it blew out. But I'll take that under advisement, as they say over here in legal circles. But I would think that they will be asking them to have a look at that and get some racer tape on that before it disappears altogether.
Yeah, and flies into another car that's following closely behind.
Is he coming in? The team will have seen that as much as we have. Probably deciding what to do, even as we speak, probably putting some racer tape together to put a patch over that. As coming up behind, flashing its lights, is one of the 458s, 2 of the 458s in fact, coming up behind the 51 car of Pierre Caffa. The CRS car's there as well. It's definitely affecting the feed, definitely affecting the speed of that car, because the CRS car behind him is hunting him down at the moment. David Brabham continues to lap convincingly.
You can see the sun has fully set, so that's a lot more comfortable for the drivers as they're coming down towards turn 17 on the ALMS straightaway. And tearing off there?
He tried to take a tear off his helmet, and I think the tear off tab came off in his hand and didn't pull the film with it. I think that's what happened. I'm not sure. I saw him take the left hand off the steering wheel and go up to his helmet, and then he had something in his hand which for a moment he just tacked onto the top of the dashboard. Fifth gear. Oh no, it's not, yeah, fifth, fourth, third. Yeah, you can see that quite clearly on the dashboard. It's a nice bright dash in front of Brabs, isn't it? A lot of information on there to keep you going. And nowadays, of course, a lot of buttons, switches, etc. on the steering wheel tend to be a very, very expensive piece of carbon fibre. Can often run into thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. All linked by CAN bus and matrix linked computerized modules, and it's a very, very unfriendly place to be if you're anything electronic on a racing car. Duncan Dayton telling us, and they've been working with General Electric over the last couple of years, that some of their military guys actually looking at the kind of environment that racing cars have and say that the only thing that they've got that's anywhere near it is fast jets. And when they're talking about mil spec, military spec on wiring harnesses and things like that, that's what they mean. Now here's Pedro Lamy a couple of laps ago. That is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, and he's hard and long on the middle pedal to pull that car around. He's continuing the lap, 53.8 last time around. Not super bad, but not great either. So Loic Duval leads in the Orica Matmut Peugeot. There is the number 10 car going round the hairpin at turn number 7. As we're inside the last 2 hours and 45 minutes. Oh, now.
And Tom Christensen is far and away the fastest car on the racetrack.
What's the car behind that Peugeot? The leader's just gone past what? Was that one of the Lola Coupes? If not, it was a very slow-moving other Peugeot. I'm afraid I didn't quite get a good enough look. It is a slow-moving Peugeot. The 10 car has just gone past.
Well, it's
another Peugeot.
I think it's Mark Genet.
Is it Genet?
I was just looking at it on the timing scoring. His last lap around was 2 minutes for Mark Genet. I was wondering why that was.
Yeah, well, that was definitely Genet, one of the other Peugeots going slowly. Leading in GT, Andy Priaulx for BMW. They're absolutely creaming the Michelin Green X Challenge as well at the moment, running on E85, the BMW Motorsport entered cars.
The 3-time World Touring Car champion Andy Priaulx doing an excellent job. He's stepping into this car. He's said for a couple of years he's done the odd race in the American Le Mans. He was as a third driver, like you were saying earlier on, dabbling in endurance racing, and he's been hankering after this ride. He wants to do more of it, doesn't he? He really does enjoy it. He's kind of done everything he can do in World Touring Cars, and this he sees as the next opportunity.
BMW stepping away from World Touring Cars, making an entry to German touring cars, the DTM, very different set of regulations. Dr. Mario Tyson, head of Motorsport for BMW, at least till the end of May, is here this weekend, proving just how important this is. Andy Priaulx, no stranger to endurance racing, as Jeremy says. They are. He's won the Nürburgring 24 hours, and what a. In fact, actually, when you think about it, what a year for this BMW M3, because Charlie Lamb and Schnitzer BMW won the N24 last year, just before we went to Le Mans. Then they've won the team's championship in the American Le Mans series with what was then Rahal Letterman racing. Now in GTC, the Porsche Cup class, it is still Black Swan Racing who leads that by about 1 minute and 23 seconds. Sebastian Blekemolen has taken over now after a wonderful stint by Irishman Damien Faulkner, proving, as I think we all knew, that give him half a sniff of a drive in a decent team with a decent car, and he will deliver for you. Pulled back a full lap before the last full course caution that we had, Faulkner, and has handed the car to Sebastian Blekemolen, who, no slouch himself, He's driven with his brother before in the American Le Mans Series, of course. Little bit of racer tape on the rear three-quarter of that car, but otherwise looks pretty straight and pretty shiny, to be quite honest. And in fact, there's tape both sides at the back of that car, and I don't really understand what that's there for. I wonder if they've got some additional battery-powered lights or something there in case they get a bang from behind.
And there is the 036 erstwhile leader in LMP Challenge. With that car, Jens Peterson just drove one stint. He just made a pit stop a few moments ago, and Dane Cameron has taken over behind the wheel. That's the good news. The bad news is he's now behind Frankie Montecalvo, who leads the class for Core Autosports in car number 005.
So 9 hours 23 minutes gone. Loic Duval leads for Orica Matmut. David Brabham is 47.5 seconds behind. And Sebring is going into full darkness. It's the 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. The 04 Corvette is in a long pit lane. This is the 6th place car. Richard Westbrook making his debut for the team. And nice to see him getting a competitive drive for so long. Go. He's been almost exclusively associated with Porsches, having been a Super Cup champ. First Brit to win the Super Cup for quite some time, and managed to win it 2 years and 2 years in a row. I love these pictures in the darkness. Scott Atherton, the president and CEO of the American Le Mans Series, has joined our happy little band in our ESPN3.com booth here as the race leader comes into the pits. Scott often does this as the action. Whenever we need a bit more action, we ask Scott into the booth. We'll come to Scott in a moment as we've got the race leader, Loic Duval, in the pits, and Jamie is down there.
Driver change going on right now. Nicolas Lapierre getting behind the wheel. Team is putting fuel in the car. They are going to do a tire change as well. You can see it's going to take a little bit of extra time to get him strapped into the car, so they might as well do tires while they do the driver change. Now, this car looks a lot like the Peugeot, but as we've said, they are completely different machines. Car up on the jacks right now, fresh set of Michelin tires going on, and they're going to try and keep their race lead because Highcroft Racing, they're due for a pit stop anytime now as well.
Well, David Brabham has gone through in the 01 Highcroft car. What an effort this has been on a 1-week-old car. We've had both of the brand new cars, the 1-week-old cars, the 062 of Reese and the 01 of David Brabham, and the Highcroft team leading their respective classes, and of course leading overall as far as David's concerned, as the 10 Matmut Orica Peugeot goes back into the fray with battles going on all down the field. Jeremy will keep a quick eye on that, so if Jeremy shrieks, we'll know that there's something going on out there as we once again say hello to Scott Atherton. And once again, the weather gods have smiled on us, Scott, and we've got a great crowd and fantastic weather. And, you know, I keep asking you this every time I see you, but who writes the scripts for these things? Because we've already had our money's worth. Well, I think probably in the first 4 hours we had our money's worth here.
I'd love to take credit for it, but that would be the wrong thing to do with all capital letters on that one. Weather, the grid, the crowd, every aspect of measure here is beyond our highest expectations.
We're sitting in a new booth for us, Jeremy and I, doing similar things to what we've done in the past, but we're working for slightly different masters in ESPN3.com, and of course part of that is ABC tomorrow with the race highlights.
Yeah, this is truly breaking new ground for us, and I have signed on yesterday for qualifying, again today for the race, on my laptop as if I was, in the market and wanted to see just what was happening. I can candidly say that I've been pleasantly surprised at the quality, the content, the show that you guys have put together has been outstanding. I know that it's not available to everyone, and I've heard from a lot of those folks, and I think it's only a matter of time before the footprint of this opportunity grows and grows and grows. And for a maiden voyage, we're very pleased.
As David Brabham comes in the pits, the leader, we'll keep an eye on this just to make sure that nothing goes wrong as he is in here. It looks like this is going to be a full service and a driver change. It'll be Simon Pagenaud who is due to get in the car, and Rick de Bruyne is down there as Brabham gets out. Rick?
Yeah, and this is a planned scheduled stop. Everything's going according to plan at this point. They are doing the driver change. David Brabham got out. Simon Pagenaud getting into the car. Interesting how this day has gone for them. At one point they were back quite a ways, but as things have changed, as the race has changed, it has kind of come into their lap, and they're now a potential contender. Now there's still a few more things that have to happen for them to pull off an actual victory tonight, but for them to be in this place with a car that has this kind of miles on it, with these changes that had to be made from last year, it's very interesting to see what they've been able to do tonight. So once again, driver change is complete. Now they just have to get the tires on and send them back out. They're very happy with the way the car's running, no problems. Now it's just a matter of trying to stay complete. They're pulling some tear-offs off the headlights, so because you can see it's so much clearer once they pull those off, so you can actually see what's going on. They refire the engine, toss it away.
Yeah, there was no way I was going to talk over that as they went out. Thanks, Rick. Fantastic burnout by Simon Pagenaud. There may have been a pit lane infringement there from Simon Pagenaud. I'm not sure he had the pit lane speed limiter on. We'll check back with the IMSA officials in a moment. Scott, just before David Brabham brought the 01 car in, you were saying that some people can't get it right now, but that is going to change. You guys have recognised that. You're putting things in place, already have done, with the international feed being available on AmericanLeMans.com, and ESPN have also got some new things coming online with Player and 360 in European, South American and Far Eastern markets. Not quite ready yet, and yeah, okay, mea culpa for that, but they're coming.
Exactly, John, and I think back, I've been involved here long enough to remember the early days of our speed broadcasts, and candidly then we used the network TV shows to drive awareness of speed, and the messaging then was, if you don't get speed, then call your cable operator and demand it. And I think we should make the same request now. If for those that are not able to get the ESPN3.com signal through your broadband provider, call them up and demand it, because this is outstanding programming. I've had, thankfully, the majority of emails I've received today have been very positive on the coverage and the quality of the coverage that's being put out here. It's unprecedented from that perspective. And don't lose sight of the fact that we're on ABC Network TV tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and that's in front of a lot of new eyes. In fact, every round of the American Le Mans Series, either on ESPN2 or ABC, shortly after the race has been completed on a tape-delayed highlights basis. The Sebring 12 Hours kicks off the season. It's a difficult race for drivers and teams. It's also a difficult race for television because of the nature of the circuit and where we are. But I look outside into our TV compound. I see a lot of the same faces who've been with us for the last 13 years that I can remember. Yep. As I said in the introduction, as we were coming to green flag, Sebring's been a first for many things in sports car racing, indeed motorsport in the United States of America, across its very, very storied history, including us doing the first American Le Mans Series radio web broadcast here back in '99. So it's kind of fitting, isn't it, that we enter this new digital video era with the Sebring 12 Hours?
Yeah, exactly. And I see the leader lights ablaze on the side of the car, and there was another element that made its debut here. So,
good point.
As we kick off here with quote unquote our Super Bowl, it is fitting that this race, especially the way it's going down, we can look back and say this was the first time it went live with our ESPN ABC partnership.
The grid is outstanding here. We know that there's problems financially around the world for manufacturers, for teams, for sponsors, for individuals, private individuals who have always been such a mainstay of this type of sports car racing. And yet, here with the ILMC runners, we've got the biggest grid for about 10, 12, 13 years.
Yeah, and I believe it's a testament to, it can be described as easily as one word. It's the relevance of what this form of motorsport represents for manufacturers and suppliers that want to be associated with them. In our example here, looking at the BMW, I think is a perfect example. Non-endemic sponsors like Crown Plaza and Avnet that are on that car the Patron relationship that we have, again, completely unaffiliated with the automotive industry. But these brands are racing their products. They're developing technologies here that are going to be destined in the not distant future to their road cars.
This is the first round of the American Le Mans Series for 2011. It's the first round of the new, improved and extended ALMS, the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup. Effectively, that's the World Championship of Sports Car Racing under ACO control. Le Mans is part of that championship, part of a championship for the first time in living memory. And here in the American Le Mans Series, not one but two races in your calendar on the ILMC.
We bookend the season with these ILMC events, and I could say it's an honor to be hosting the first round here for the 2011 season. You know, we're in ongoing dialogue with the ACO as to how things are going. I think the level of cooperation between everyone here this week preparing for this race has been outstanding. I just had a meeting with Jean-Claude Plessard, and we were talking about this exact.
He's the head man at the ACO.
He's the head man. Yeah, they tried to let people know who that is. How well things have gone here, and the cables already being laid for Petit Le Mans.
Yeah, and that looks to be another fantastic race. And if we get something like we've had here in the last 9 hours and 33 minutes, no one's going to be particularly disappointed. Looking for the rest of the American Le Mans Series then on North American shores. More of the same, please.
Yeah, coming up. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how things develop. If you talk about the content that's here represented today, the majority of this content will be featured in all of our races. Now, I say that with full acknowledgement that we've got some pretty spectacular entries that won't be. The next time we'll see them again will be at Petit Le Mans. But as always, I need to plant the seeds here, because if for those that are not able to be here and see who else has joined us, we've got manufacturer presidents, chief marketing officers, decision makers of all description, many of whom are currently not represented in sports car racing. They're taking a very close look at what's going on here, and it bodes well for the future. These things take years to develop as far as corporate programs, manufacturing programs, and both in the GT and LMP categories. They tend to go away very quickly. A long time building them. When they go away, it's always in an instant. But I'm very bullish on our future, and I tell you, I think the 2011 season for us is going to be the best ever.
Thanks for taking some time out on a busy weekend. Before you go, I'll remind everybody watching and listening, 12:30 Eastern, ESPN on ABC for the highlights of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. Scott Atherton, thanks very much indeed. Can you enjoy the rest of the race?
This could very well be the last official meeting of my day. I've been going strong since the green flag fell. I have not been out of my office, and it's a pleasure to sit here and watch some of the race. Maybe I get to see the end.
I might suggest there's a couple of places trackside, particularly on driver's right down to turn 17, where you might want to go and watch a bit of racing there.
They don't appreciate guys in sport coats.
Scott Atherton, President and CEO of IMSA in the American Le Mans Series, Panos Motorsports, thank you very much indeed for being with us. We've got our GT leader, perfect timing as well. We've got our GT leader, Andy Priaulx, coming into the pit lane. Jeremy.
Yeah, we saw Augusto Farfus in the pits just a couple of laps ago in what was then the second place BMW, and now the class leader comes onto pit lane as well. So Tony Vilander for Risi Competizione will take over the lead.
Dirk Mueller gets in the car as Andy Priaulx gets out. They take another tearaway off. They're going to start with a nice clean windshield, although I have to say the front of the car, when you look at the front of the car, you realize what they've been going through all day. It's a good thing they've got those tear-offs. Look how dirty the front is, although compared to the sister car, which had that incident with one of the LMP cars, where they got a little bit of the bodywork taken off, this car looks pretty darn good. The fuel is in now. They're going to go ahead and change tires, realizing once again that they already did a 12-hour test before they ever got to this race, and it's a good thing they did. It's showing. Now, we still have a couple hours left to go, but for the time being, their homework has paid off.
Excellent pit stop there by the BMW Rahal Letterman Lanigan crew, and that has enabled Andy Priaulx to rejoin the fray. We'll have to wait and see where he comes out in relation to the other leading cars in the GT class. But in the meantime, at the front of the field is still Nicolas Lapierre, who leads in that car number 10 for Team Orica Matmut, and he is running strong at the front. He's got a lead of about 55 seconds over Pedro Lamy and Simon Pagenaud. The battle for second place is really heated up over the last couple of laps, because Simon Pagenaud has closed right up onto the tail of Pedro Lamy. And I think if we can try and have a look at that in a moment or two, we'll see that there's very little to choose between the number 8 Peugeot and the 01 HPD. But in the meantime, there is Nicolas Lapierre. He's got a lead of almost a minute out in front of the pack. But that battle is really heating up for second place, John.
Yeah, Pagenaud is on a tear at the moment,
he's great. You know, we wondered whether, here we are.
There's the lights in the distance. You can I think you can just about see them, can't you? Well, that's a GT car, isn't it?
It's a GT car, yeah, but let's wait and see.
I think he's gone by him, Jeremy.
Do you really?
There's no Peugeot. I see no Peugeot. Down into 17.
Ships.
Unless he's been terribly held up around that lap.
Yeah, we wondered whether, when it came down to the night time, would the balance of power change at all? Well, maybe it will. Yeah, Pagenaud up into second place.
Yeah. And the 062 coming into the pit lane, Tony Villander, he's leading.
And Pedro Lamy hasn't had much joy, has he, today?
No. Who was it? Was it Marino that said that Pedro wasn't quite up to the pace?
Yes, he did.
He said it in a very nice way, but he made the point to say that he wasn't quite on the... Oh, now, hang on a second. Is that a Peugeot?
If it is...
That is a Peugeot. That is a Peugeot. No, it's an
It's not Pedro Lamy, because...
Oh, no, this is the P2 leader. This is the Signatech Nissan coming back around. They had gearbox electrical problems earlier on. Scrambled down in the Signatech pit as the 26 car comes around. They had already lost the lead. Sayela Yari, they had 4 laps lead on the 055 car, and Ryan Hunter-Ray has gone back into the leads. Rick de Bruyne.
Boy, how frustrating this is for this team. Just a moment ago, they got a 60-second hold penalty because they had 2 of the fuelers over the wall fueling without wearing goggles. As a result, they had to stop for 60 seconds. They lost the lead at that point. Earlier, the team, when I was talking with them, were so optimistic. They said everything was going so well. They were really excited with this engine, with this combination, that they were going to be able to be out here and make things turn. And after some early problems where they had some gear selector problems, that went away. Now the question is, have those gear selector problems come back?
Interesting, Rick, one of the crew members brought out a little tray full of equipment to the drivers, to the left-hand side of the driver's cockpit. And he's already pulled off some shielding down there, and it looks like he knows exactly what he's doing. Meantime, 2 of his colleagues have pulled off the deck of the car and are working around the gearbox area. And I think this might be a gearbox actuator problem. The electrics not talking to the hydraulics or the electrical shifter to actually move the selector forks. And they're certainly in the area around what would be the passenger side if you have a right-hand drive car footwell, which tends, Jeremy, to be, does it not, where a lot of the electrics, the relays and all of the gubbins that do the clever bits tend to be housed down there for easy access.
Yes, sort of easy access, relatively easy access, yes, but they are putting the cover back on the back of that car, so...
I think he was asking if when he was doing, when I do this, does it move, kind of thing. Yeah. And now I think they're putting it back together again. Meantime, as predicted, Tony Villander brings the 062 into pit lane. Jamie is down there.
It's a bit of a scramble in the Risi Competizione pit. Half of the crew was ready, half of the crew was not. They're lucky that they had the experience of Tony Villander, because he pulled the car perfectly into the stall without the guidance of the lollipop from the crew member. Car up on the jack right now. Jamie Malo getting strapped in behind the wheel. They've done something to help themselves on the driver changes. Their seat is on a slider, and they have put different color tapes on the floor, and so that the crew members can just slide the car back to the color for the driver getting in. Makes it a lot quicker. Door is shut. Jamie Malo is now in the car. Looks like, though, he's having trouble getting it fired up. Looking at the crew, they're not sure what's going on right now either. Lights are on. Is Malo in the car right now?
No start.
But there is no start for this Ferrari. Team's going to have to get back to work.
That took far too long to get the driver in, because everything else was done. and they still didn't have the driver bolted in. So something went wrong early in that strut, and Jamie Mello is still not properly belted in. I'm not sure he's got his radio cord on there from what we heard, and the car's not starting. So pick any one of those for a problem.
Yeah, and major disaster for Risi Competizione, because they were in great shape. This battle had been ongoing really since the start of the race, but this is costing them an awful lot of time. You could see the frustration there
Jamie,
from the crewman closing that door.
They forgot to cycle the master switch
now
for the radio.
restart it.
And now they're going through all of the...
Time is ticking away.
New car. You don't know all the intricacies as you did with the old one. It's, you know, on the old one, if it didn't start, they would have known that it was relay number 22 that you had to push back in. Sometimes that one pops out. Oh, goodness me, when you've got 5 cars on the same lap in GT, this is just killing them at the moment. Feel for them. It's been such a good run for Dave Sims and...
Why did we change the drivers now?
Jamie Mello's saying, why did we change the drivers now? He seems to think that it's something to do with the fact that they were changing the drivers. It's caused the problem.
We heard about there was some confusion coming in. Maybe they clearly weren't completely ready for that pit stop for some reason.
I'm not sure why that was, because we clearly heard on the radio, Bubba Clark, who feeds us stuff from the team radios, it clearly told us 2 laps before, whilst I was still talking to Scott Atherton, that car was coming in. Beaky Sims there with the grey hair and the headset just wandering away from us. Is not a happy man at all. Jamie Howe, this is desperately frustrating.
It really is, and you know, Jamie Mello was not ready. He was one of the team members that was not ready for this pit stop. He was still back behind the wall, getting his gloves and his helmet on. Jamie Mello, he has a lot of experience with Ferrari, but he also has a lot of emotion. Winning is something he knows. It's obviously something he loves. You see him shaking his head inside the car. He is not happy right now. Did not understand why they had to do the driver change at this point in the race when Tony Vilander was doing so good. It looks like also they might be getting another penalty. You see IMSA officials down here right now. They have crew guys over the wall without wearing their safety helmets. There are a lot of mistakes going on for Risi Competizione right now.
Shot of Giuseppe Risi, the man behind the team, who was sitting back there with an absolutely incredulous look on his face.
Switch off the lights.
And once again, started. There you go. Now, don't speed, Jamie. Don't speed, Jamie Mello. Easy to forget to push the speed limiter. If you've reset everything, it tends to go away. Puts on the extra driving lights, and away he goes.
Yeah, but that's a major disaster for Risi Competizione. I see they're going to be awfully fortunate to have to come back from this. We talked about it a little while ago, didn't we? It's whoever makes least mistakes in this sort of race that's going to come out on top. And thus far in the race, Risi Competizione, particularly considering the fact they're running a brand new car this weekend. And when I mean brand new, just 1 week old today since its delivery from Italy. I think it's quite remarkable in the job that they have done, but that pit miscue there apparently disastrous.
Yeah, some problem with the voltage from the battery to the point where they've told him to take off the extra driving light. Take off the extra driving lights on the front of the car, the Le Mans style driving lights, because they're not sure about what kind of load the battery can take. They've also said that they had to change because Tony Vilander couldn't do physically another stint in that car. So 2 hours and 13 minutes still to go in this race. What other twists and turns does this race have for us?
In GT, we've still got only a couple of seconds between the 2 BMWs. And here is the LMP leader. Frankie Montecalvo brought this car into the pits, a 005 car for Core Autosports. And away now that car goes. It's a routine pit stop. We saw the 036 with which this car is battling for the lead in LMP Challenge. That car was in about 6 or 7 laps ago. So now Dane Cameron, having taken over the wheel of the 036, is back into the lead of LMP Challenge for Genoa Racing. But this battle's going to go on, certainly. Montecalvo comes back out of the pits now. Not sure whether there was a driver change or not. Fancy there probably was. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't Ryan Dalziel taking over at the wheel of that car.
Could almost do it to the end from here.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, maybe there'll be one more stint from. Tough to see, isn't it?
past the headlights, yeah. Need to get him to something shining. No, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Just need a little halo light above all the drivers so you can see the helmet designs.
The scoring is showing that it's still Frankie Montecalvo driving that car, the 20-year-old.
Well, he's gone across a couple of timing loops because there is a timing loop between 1 and 3. And we're hearing from the pit lane, we were just wondering what had happened to the 017 Falcon car. Gearbox was the problem with that, and they are done. It's put a fork in that one, I'm afraid. It was also gearbox again for the Signatech Nissan car, though I think that car's gone back out again as we saw them putting the car back together.
Already at least 5 or 6 laps down, at the very least, over Ryan Hunter-Reay, who now leads P2 for Level 5 Motorsports.
Wrong Level 5 as far as Scott Tucker's concerned. He nominated himself in the 33, and it's the 055. But Liz, I tell you what, I've got to tell you, you wouldn't bet on that changing before the end of the race as well, with the way the P2 cars have been somewhat fragile. It's a big full moon tonight here at Sebring. The lights are on, the party is about to start, but not yet. 2 hours and 11 minutes of racing still to go at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There's your class leaders. Ryan Hunter-Reay having just relatively recently taken over the P2 leads from the Nissan. We had the sun earlier on, and now...
very cool.
Now, it was like Le Mans this morning in the mist, and of course Le Mans runs as close as possible to a full moon. That's why it is that particular week in June. Shortest night, biggest moon. On board with the 0-1, and Simon Pagenaud charging 54 seconds away from the lead at the moment, and took a full second out of Nicolas Lapierre. Just to do a little bit of housekeeping before I bring Jeremy Shaw back in. Johnny, this is Timo Bernhard coming up the pit lane on the starter motor. By the sound of it, that car is not going to make it. Don't tell me he's run out of diesel. What a disaster. But that car was... I'm sure he was on the...
in the pit lane. The car's not starting anymore.
I'll tell you what, he's tried to do one lap longer on this stint than he did last time. And last stint was 24 laps for that car. This time, 25. Was that one too many? Okay.
Well, he's managed to get the pressure up and get it going again. The pit guys who were running down towards him will now have to run all the way back. Was that almost a Frank Bieler moment from Le Mans? And now they're running back the other way. Now, this is...
Fuel only.
Leader calling out fuel only. We don't often see that from Audi. It was a little bit comical. A little bit of housekeeping, I was going to say. Johnny Morlam did a cracking job early on in the 048 LMP-C car. That car pretty much rebuilt by Hugh Chamberlain and his boys earlier on, and he was absolutely flying. Unfortunately, they are now out with a broken floor on that car. It's been a real disaster for them in the race. They've had zero luck. Had a little fire, and they set off a fire extinguisher. Johnny got squirted with extinguishing, and now there's a broken floor.
We don't have the tools to be able to change a broken floor in that car, in fact. Even if they had the floor to change.
Next into the pit lane, Pedro Lamy, and Pedro will be getting out of the number 8 Peugeot. As for the first time in a little while, Simon Pagenaud fails to take time from Lapierre. He's got the hurry up, and a slightly slower lap from Simon Pagenaud means that's gone out to 58.4 seconds, but expect to see the ebb and flow between first and second depending on where the traffic is. Timo Bernhard getting back up to speed. Let's have a listen to the Audi just to make sure that it's nothing too sinister. They've got him stopped in pit lane. This is down towards the hairpin. How quiet is that? And listening into the team radio, it's possible that Timo Bernhard did not see the fuel light come on. And he may well have just been very lucky there in getting in.
Well, like I said, they did go one lap farther than they had on the previous stint, and 24 laps to 25, and it's a 3.7 mile lap here. That's a pretty long way. And we talked to the team earlier in the week, and they were saying, you know, with this smaller fuel tank, they aren't getting quite the fuel mileage, well, the distance between the pit stops that they were previously.
This is his teammate Tom Christensen in the pit lane. Tyres laid out for Tom, but I think Tom stayed in the car there. And this is quite unusual. If they don't change drivers, they tend not to change the tyres, although they may be going to a different compound, of course, at this stage in the evening. With just over 2 hours still to go. Yep, it's a new set of Michelin rubber for the 2 car, and you can see just ahead of Tom's car, the number 8 stop board illuminated, so I expect Pedro Lamy in shortly. Out goes the number 2 Audi, 4th position. And here comes Pedro Lamy from 3rd position. Very distinctive rear light treatment on the Peugeot as it heads down towards Jamie Howe.
Actually, I'm down here.
Excuse me, Kelly.
No, that's all right. Pedro Lamy brought in the number 8, but they've made a driver change already. Frank Montagny will now take over driving duties. You wonder, he'll probably finish this out, but a relatively short stint there for Pedro Lamy. After he gets a flat spot on the tires. Right now they're putting some fresh Michelins on. Everything going pretty smoothly so far, but we'll see if this number 8 can make up some ground from his 3rd spot. Amy?
Just to get an update on the Risi Competizione team manager David Sims, there was a lot of confusion down here in the pit box. Jamie Malo here in the pit box. Jamie Malo not happy and not ready for that driver change. What happened?
We got an electrical problem, and the battery is going flat when we put the 24-hour light system on for the night. Headlights are right, but it's draining the battery, and we think it's an alternator problem, which if it is, then we have a big problem. So we're waiting to see. We strapped another battery in, so we're going to see how long that battery is going to last if the alternator's not working.
What was the confusion with Jamie? He was asking, why are we doing a driver change right now?
Well, he's had a bit of a problem with his back. And we asked Tony to do 2 stints, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do 2 stints, so we had to get Jamie in. We had no choice.
Do you think the issues that you're having here, is this a product of not getting the car soon enough and not having any testing with this 458?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, we'd have loved to test it with everything electrical on. That's what we normally do, to test the alternator, you know, give it a good 10-hour test. Obviously we couldn't, you know, so we're testing now.
Welcome to your test session, Ferrari.
Ask Dave Sims a question, you get the answer.
Yes.
I mean, you know,
no beating about
really,
it.
well, he's not going to be happy if he sees that picture, because if that's his car, he's got the 24-hour lights on again on that car, and he's been told not to put them on, and that is the 062. You can see by the 2 bright yellow Pennzoil stickers, Pennzoil Ultra stickers on the back valance, and the lights I'm talking about are the additional 4 lights, 2 in the bottom of the spoiler and 2 in the sort of middle bumper area, and that, they think, is what is draining the battery. But Jamie Mello clearly thinking he needs them on to make up time and distance on the cars around him. Dropped down to 6th position and dropped 2 laps on the leaders. Nearly 3 laps on the leaders, actually.
Yeah, that's certainly very bad news for that team. And you know, there's a lot of this track is pretty dark around there. I mean, it's really tough to see.
I present to the court, the back straight, yeah. Still very interested at this battle at the head of the field as we watch Jamie Mello come out of turn 17 and across the line. It's Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh.
He's actually only 1 lap down.
Oh, is he?
Yes, amazingly.
No.
Yeah, he's just completed 2:52, and the class leaders have completed 2:53 shortly. Well, there it is actually now, 2:54, so almost 2 laps down, but not quite. Yeah. And Dirk Mueller goes across the line right there with Augusto Farfus within 1 second. So we've got a battle for the lead in GT between the 2 BMWs. And what did Joey Hand say earlier on?
He said if it gets down to the, I'm paraphrasing here clearly, if it gets down to the last knockings, there's no such things as teammates, and so long as we don't run into each other, I'm racing anybody out there.
Right, so at the moment it's Dirk Mueller versus Augusto Farfus. It's Dirk Mueller who leads in the 56 car, and Augusto Farfus second in the number 55, but nothing between them.
That's quite interesting because Farfus has normally been out there whilst Prio's been out there, so something's just changed a little bit there. Now that looks like that BMW's just had a coming together with the Corvette, and that looks like a puncture for the 55 car. Farfus, second place in GT2, has had a rub incident.
Lap if you got a puncture, look at the pressure gauges.
Is it a puncture? Yeah. Well, yes, it's a puncture, and once again the carcass has just completely come off the wheel.
It looked like it might have come to rest in the track there.
Flat pressures look good.
Got to be careful here.
He's running on the rim.
Yes, he is.
He's running on the rim.
They should move.
And I'm not. He must know it. Surely there'll be a little bit of rubber just hanging onto the bead. Now in the darkness, look at the headlights. Look at what's going on behind. Turns in 04 side by side. Bang bang, and there is where the damage was done. You can see that the Corvette gets damage on the right front and the left rear of the BMW, and exactly what we were talking about earlier, Jeremy, about the camber on the wheels. There's just that part where at the bottom of the wheel they stick out, and if you get 2 of them bashing together, the spokes of the rims as well as the bodywork, and in fact probably more so than the bodywork and the carbon fibre, is actually doing the damage on the wheel rim. No action from the race officials. Racing incident, which is also, of course, what must have happened with Tom Christensen earlier on. So I think he did get away with one a little bit there. Under 2 hours to go, Jeremy. Are you ready to psych yourself up for the last 120 minutes?
So that was the 5th place Corvette, the car 04 with Oliver Gavin at the wheel, with which the 2nd place car in GT clashed there, and the second of the Corvettes, the 03 car, driven currently by Olivier Beretta, is in 3rd place, about 45 seconds behind the class leader for that damage.
Huge dent in the wheel rim on the left rear, like a big chunk taken out of it. And that's probably, I mean, it's come around sort of 3/4 of a lap, but there's a big dent there, and that's what will have deflated the tyre almost immediately. Still showing his 3rd place, Augusto Farfus, as he comes in, because Pierre Caffer is yet to come round in the 5-1. The AF Corsa car down to BMW. Jamie Howe.
The number 55 BMW from Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing's pulled into a stop. They are doing a driver change, and it looks like he did a great job. Augusto Farfus did a great job of conserving that tire and not doing any damage to the body. Very minimal. There is a broken wheel on the car. It looks like that might be what caused the damage. Team doing all 4 tires right now. They're going to get him back out and underway. The team has done a lot of practice in the offseason to improve their pit stops. They practice stuff like this, and now they are finished. They're still going to do some work on the rear. They're trying to get the broken wheel off. The problem now is when the tires shred, there's actually shreds of rubber stuck in it. They're pulling those out, and now the new rear is going on, and he'll be down and away in just a moment.
There's bodywork damage on the left-hand side. The remnants of the alloy wheel being thrown away with disdain. Now the other side of that's the inside that you can see. you could see the outside of that rim, you would see there's a huge chunk being taken out of it. They're trying another tyre here because the bodywork has been deformed. Let's hope there's no damage to the hub there. It's interesting to see them pulling the bands of the rubber out with the metal or carbon reinforcement. That's good. Get the wheel spinning. Let's feel if there's anything loose at the back. No, it seems okay. Off and running. But look at how they've dropped down the time and scoring monitor.
Yeah, I think that was Dirk Werner taking over at the wheel of car number 55, but they certainly lost a lot of time. They might. We'll have to see how much time they've lost here, but not too far behind him on the road was Oliver Gavin. He's about a minute or so behind him, so might not quite have caught him, but I think that battle is going to be heating up.
I think Caffer's gone through. I think Ollie Gavin might have gone through. Yeah. Well, behind that, he's only at the worst. He's going to lose a couple of places, but he's lost time on the leaders. Now, this is the 03 Corvette now up into second place with Olivier Beretta, the Monegasque driver. Well, we said this before.
He's got out of that, can you?
No. Well, yellow lights as well, you see, on the GT cars, as we've always had here. There goes a prototype. It's one of the level 5 cars, the 33, fighting its way back from its earlier problems.
Still going.
Points to be had here.
Well, absolutely right. And Olivier Beretta, he's been losing a little bit of time to the BMWs over the last couple of laps. I noticed a second or two on each of the last 2 laps, so we can see if he can up that pace a little bit for Olivier Beretta to keep some pressure on that leading BMW car number 56.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And meanwhile, up at the front of the field, nothing's changed. Up front, Nicolas Lapierre in car number 10 still leads pretty handily from Simon Pagenaud. He's actually extended that lead now to a little over a minute, with less than 2 hours now to go in this race. So it's looking very, very good for Team Orica Matmut. And Frank Montagny is charging along in third place, trying to make a dent into the advantage that Simon Pagenaud has over him.
There is Nicolas Lapierre. We don't talk too much about Nicolas Lapierre, and we should do, really, because, you know, he's... Oh, and just as I say that, he makes a mistake going into the hairpin. Having done a little bit of darkness driving recently, I was at the Shift 2 Unleashed launch at Silverstone, and we were let out on the Store circuit in Aston Martin GTs, and it's amazing. I've driven rally cars in the dark, obviously, but you have lots of additional lights and somebody to tell you where you're going. But in a racing car, it's a very alien experience if you've never done it before, driving in the dark. And what you tend to do is overheat the brakes because you're braking slightly too late, and you're trying to react to the corner because you feel if you're braking too early, you're losing time. And it's a real balancing act. You have to look at what you can see, but you don't want to overdrive what you can see. You know, it's a real skill, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it's something that some drivers are much more comfortable with than others. There's plenty of top-line racing drivers who have not felt particularly comfortable driving at night. Plenty of them.
And the Store circuit I know very well, having done my race licence there many years ago. All right, it's changed a little bit. I've done lots of karting around there, but a single seat. I've done lots of car test. Drove a Nissan GTR around there recently, and now the Aston Martin GT4. And, you know, the night driving experience, I'm sort of driving up the start-finish straight going, I know there's a chicane here somewhere. Where's the board? Where's the visual clues?
Yeah, I did some 24-hour races at Snetterton way back.
Oh, the Wilhire?
Yeah, I did that 3 times. And it's nothing like the pace of these cars, but it's certainly very interesting, and there's some drivers in that race that one would have expected to be super quick in the night that weren't, including a very well-known rally driver at the time, funnily enough, which surprised me. But I loved driving at the night, and a lot of racing drivers too. You know, the engines breathe a little bit better, the tyres, it's a little bit cooler, so it's a little bit not quite so hard on the tyres as well. And ultimately, in many races, in many circumstances, you can set the fastest times at night.
Well, we see that at Le Mans quite a lot, don't we? Just into the early part of the night when people are still feeling fresh, and maybe if they get a couple of laps out there when the old drag races used to say, when the air is fat.
Yeah,
and the engines make the best power. Here is Simon Pagenaud just coming round, and this is the car that's trying to chase him down. This is Frank Montagny. Took a couple of seconds out of him last time around, Jeremy, so Frank is coming.
He's doing that fairly regularly, Frank Montagny. He's certainly consistently quicker than Simon Pagenaud.
And we're hearing that on the radio, the 56 BMW Motorsport car is got a problem, perhaps, with the right rear tyre. This is the leader in GT. That would be completely bizarre and terribly bad luck if the two BMWs within 3 laps of each other both succumbed to tyre problems. Obviously, one was contact, but there's clearly a lot of debris out there on the circuit now. And the other thing, of course, you can't see at night is, you know, having to go a little bit offline. You can't see what you're driving over.
Yeah, that is true. And, you know, we had a lot of caution periods during the early part of the race, and the safety trucks were sent out there, and the track blower as well to clean off the track. Well, the last caution period we had was at 6 o'clock or a little bit after it, so it's been, you know, 2.5 hours since we've had a full course caution.
Yeah, we've pretty much had an American Le Mans Series race.
That's right,
going fully green. Yeah,
indeed. So the track, you know, there's a lot more debris and rubber marbles out there on the track than there have been at any stage previously in this race.
There's also, you know, the other thing about the night time is
Mueller pitting.
Oh, this is the GT leader in the pits then. Let's find out if this is a problem with the tyre. Is that about on time? I've kind of lost track just a little bit, but I think this might be off kilter for this car. He's complaining that the pressure gauge is giving him a reading to look at it, and Kelly Stavist is down there.
And while they're in here checking out that problem, they will make the driver change. So Joey Hand now getting behind the wheel of the 56. You have to imagine that he will finish this out for BMW. And as they continue fueling, then they're going to hit those tires. Make sure they've got 4 fresh good ones on there.
The fuel meter.
Right now everything looks smooth. But you've got to wonder what was causing the problem with that tire pressure.
He didn't waste any time getting going, did he?
No, it's not a disaster.
Oh no,
not a disaster at all. Brian Till, our ABC commentary colleague, pointing out they had to make 2 stops anyway. So as we're on the 03 Corvette at the moment, so you know, all it does is it changes when they have the option to do their last stop and give them a slightly wider window.
Yeah, they should be fine. They'll be able to get to the end of the race from here, I think, on 1 stop, so they should be fine. Depending, of course, if there are any other full course cautions, that could mess up the strategy a little bit, but other than that, they're looking fairly good.
It's the old adage, isn't it? You count backwards from the race and get your pit stops in as soon as possible, and then you're not at the behest and the will and the whim of a full course caution, because you don't want to have to do your pit stop and lose your track position if your rivals on the same lap have already done theirs, and then they get the advantage of the full course caution.
Front brakes glowing on car number 03, and I think that is going to put Olivier Beretta into the lead of this race. He was about 45 seconds behind. Actually, it was more than that, because the BMW came to the pits. He'd been over 50 seconds behind before that pit stop, but this is going to enable Beretta certainly to lead the race for now, but they've got a little bit of a deficit to make up, depending on when their pit stops are. And I think, you know, as it stands right now, it's going to be tough for Corvette to make up that ground and come away with a victory here, but they certainly haven't given up. And Olivier Beretta, I think at the next pit stop, he will hand over that car to I think it's probably Antonio Garcia getting that car next.
Okay. Goes down to 17. Well, still scored a 2nd place thanks to the 2 green lights on the car. But as he comes through this, he's pitting. He's pitting as well. Now I think he'll just flash very quickly to the top of the timing and scoring here, and he will actually be shown as leading the lap if he crosses the line, of course, depending on how far he's got to go down. Pierre Caffer will be the next GT car around, or has Joey Hand come through? There's Beretta, and he is scored in the lead. There's Joey Hand going through, and Joey Hand gets it back. So no real harm in terms of the track position for Joey Hand. He's gone through and retaken the lead, and former BMW driver Tommy Milner will take over from Olivier Beretta. Jamie?
It's a standard stop right now for the Corvette Racing guys. They're doing the fuel right now, driver change with Tommy Milner getting behind the wheel. They've done something different on the pit stop. For this new car, they have a light system. There are 4 lights on all 4 corners into the car so that as soon as the fuel tank is full, the crew guys know that that part of the stop is done, and they can go ahead and start. What that does, it takes all of the
Go.
and lets them do it as quickly as possible. That was a very fast pit stop for Corvette Racing.
Yeah, they're slick.
Yeah, nothing is left to chance. I mean, they think about everything, don't they? They are absolute perfectionists. Yeah, perfectionists there at Pratt & Miller and GM Corvette Racing, and they put so much thought into every single aspect of their racing car, their team, their strategy, the way they lay out the pits, absolutely everything.
They've got a gym at Pratt & Miller where the pit guys work out. They've got a pit wall so that they can practice the over-the-wall stops, and they leave nothing. Now that car's not up to speed there, Jeremy, as it's coming out, and there's lights flashing on it
from the other Corvette.
Well, that's the two Corvettes together. But see the red? Can you see the red lights flashing?
It's probably a battle for position, actually.
Those are the lights that Jamie were talking about, so that you can spot them in the pit lane. That car's not up to speed. Now, is that just cooler tyres?
It's Tommy Milner getting up to speed. He's only just come out of the pit, so it's going to take him a lap or two to get fully up to speed. Of course, the last thing he wants to do is make a mistake when he's running right in front of his teammate.
Yeah, that's called doing a larmy.
That's right.
So I reckon now that when we come round, Joey Hand, who crosses the line now, out of our sight, is leading GT again as the leader, overall leader. Nicolas Lapierre is in the pit lane, down to the pits. So the fuel going in. The Michelin tyres are laid out. There's been a driver change. You can see the crewman sitting on the door. And up goes the car on its internal jacks. Peugeot do, or Orica do, rear right, front left, and then swap them around. Remember, only 2 guns allowed and 4 people over the wall to do the tyre change. So step back, pull out the hose from the rear of the car, and we are gone.
Well, that's interesting. We've got an hour and 45 minutes to go. It's going to be very marginal as to whether they can get to the end of the race with just one more pit stop.
And Simon Pagenaud only just went through as the Peugeot was trundling down pit lane. There's a Ferrari in the pit lane with lights off. I'm assuming that that's the Risi car, the 062, and that cannot be good. And Jamie Mello, I think, is getting out, and this is not good news. Jamie Howe is down there.
It certainly isn't. If it seems like Risi Competizione was just on pit road, it was not that long ago. They were within the fuel window, but Jamie Mello, we heard Dave Sims say earlier, he's having trouble with his back. He had to get out of the car. They did put some fuel in the car. They got the headlights cleaned off the windshield, and
Headlights.
is back in. The team is not happy. They slammed the door on the car, but nonetheless, they are back out and underway.
No headlights. He's going to be stopped at the end of pit lane for no headlights, and he doesn't know why. Somebody needs to talk to him on the radio. Remember, the
Headlight switch on the center console.
See, it's a new car. He doesn't know where the headlight switch is. There he goes. Didn't read the manual.
Oh, he's done a development on that car, hasn't he? So I'm surprised if he wouldn't know where the switch was.
Mika Salo has not had a whole lot of time behind the wheel of the 458. He didn't do any of the testing with the SNU car over in Italy. Jamie Mello did the bulk of the testing, and even when Mika got here earlier this week, they had to explain to him that the shift lever wasn't broken. This car is so much more advanced than the 430. It is a sequential gearbox, and it is a lot more sensitive. Mika thought something was wrong with the gearbox. The team said, no, this one is sensitive. Just stop resting your hand on it. So Mika getting up to speed still with this 458. Jamie Mello sitting on the wall. His back is hurting him, guys. Doesn't look like he's going to be back in this race.
I've seen people with back trouble. I've had back trouble from sporting injuries, albeit some time ago now, and not exactly the most svelte, but that is the face of a person who is in absolute agony. He doesn't know whether to stand up, sit down, lie down, or be hung up by his ankles at the moment. You could see that in his face. That was a pained expression and a pained posture from Jamie Mello there. And
while we saw that drama unfolding, we had the LMP class leader, Dane Cameron, come in and make a routine pit stop for Genoa Racing.
Simon Pagenaud then leading the race by 18.5 seconds from this car, Nicolas Lapierre. Well, I was wrong. They didn't change drivers. They must have just been giving him another drinks bottle. I saw the crew member on the side and mistakenly thought he was helping another driver.
Yeah, Nicolas just got in at the previous stop, so 25 laps to win. I would expect Pagenaud to be into the pit lane in another lap or two.
Now, this is Tom Christensen having a look down the inside of Lapierre. Oh, wow. Tom. No. That is avoidable contact.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit naughty. No need for that.
Very surprised at Christensen there. I mean, clearly that was in the early running when Lapierre had come out of the pits. And the car perhaps a little cold on the tyres. And Tom looking to be... looking to get through. So we've got Simon Pagenaud leading from Nicolas Lapierre, who's been delayed. Simon Pagenaud actually might be thanking Tom Christensen for slowing him down. Now, this is the first round of the American Le Mans Series. We're off to Long Beach, and you can follow us there in April on ESPN2 and ESPN3.com. Live coverage of qualifying on Friday afternoon, April the 15th on ESPN3.com. Live streaming race coverage on Saturday, April the 16th, and then you can check out the race on ESPN2 on Sunday, April the 17th from 5 till 7 p.m. Eastern. The American Le Mans Series all season long on ESPN. The 0-1 of Simon Pagenaud is in the pits, and Kelly's down there.
And as we go through these pit cycles, the 0-1 comes in with the overall lead. Simon Pagenaud will finish off with the driving duties here, and they don't know if they're going to have 1 or 2 more pit stops for fuel. Obviously, it depends on how many cautions we have in this last hour and 40 minutes remaining in the race. But you see right now, giving them that full load of fuel. Should be a relatively quick stop, and Simon Pagenaud will be back on his way.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Yeah, the strategy is very, very interesting. These last couple of stints, Highcroft Racing has got an extra lap or 2 out of their tank of fuel than has the 1-0 car. So this is going to be absolutely fascinating. I said a few minutes ago, I thought it was touch and go as to whether the Orica Matmut car can get to the end of the race on just 1 more pit stop. I think, however, that the Highcroft Racing car can. Only just, but I think it can, and I believe that's what that team has been working on for about at least the last hour and a half or so. They've been not turning quite as quick a laps as they were earlier on. I think Simon has been trying to save some fuel, get that extra lap or 2 in, and that might just be enough to get him to the end of the race. And the way things are panning out, you know, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that I don't want to say it, but
no. I like Duncan.
It's fabulous stuff.
All of those drivers are good friends of ours. We don't want to curse anybody at this stage of the game. Do the maths yourself. Let's go and ask Duncan Dayton, who's the man behind Highcroft Racing and no mean race car driver himself, both in historic and contemporary machinery. Kelly Stavist is going to be the person who bravely sticks the microphone under his nose and asks him for his tactics.
A driver a lot of the time today, he's team principal, seems to have a smile on his face. Duncan, can you make it on just 1 more pit stop?
We're thinking so. It's tight, but he's doing a great job of going fast and saving some fuel, so that's what we're going to gamble on.
Your level of confidence in that?
I'd say it's pretty good. If anybody can do it, he can.
All right, thanks, Duncan.
So that sounds like he's going to leave Pagenaud until the end.
Yeah, no question. And you know, that car went 50 minutes since its previous pit stop. We've got 1 hour and 40 minutes to go in this race, which is 2 50-minute stints. It's close.
And indeed, Ching, I think, is the answer to that. What a story that would be. So Nicolas Lapierre leads, but needs, we think, 2 more pit stops. Simon Pagenaud in second, perhaps can go with just 1. It's the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
Well, now that Duncan Dayton has given away his strategy, I've got a feeling that he may have panicked a few people up and down pit lane, and the guys at Orica, Hugh de Schonack and the rest of their team, they'll be thinking, oh, mon Dieu, or words to that effect, because I think they've got 2 stops. Jamie Howe has very bravely gone down there and asked the question, and there's been a bit of a Gallic shrug from the team. So Lapierre, let's watch his lap times in the next few laps. I think they're going to make a driver change as well in that car, which if that's the case, they've got to do tyres really as well to give themselves a chance.
Yeah, he could probably get to the end of the race. I mean, those two got into the car about the same time. Simon Pagenaud and Nicolas Lapierre got in. Simon got in actually 2 laps after Nicolas Lapierre, so very similar amounts of time there. I don't think that's going to be the issue, but I think what is the factor is that the... look at the time between the 2 pit stops for the number 10 car was 48 minutes between its 2 pit stops, so it's not getting quite as much fuel, and it came in before. I don't think it can make it. It's going to have to start saving quite a bit of fuel, and that's going to be really touch and go. Frank Montagny, on the other hand, he's got to make one more stop relatively soon. When did he come in last? Lap 266. 50 national, 10 laps or so. I can't figure out yet, it's too exciting, as to whether he's going to have to make 1 stop. He's only going to make 1 stop, and I think he's probably got to make a splash as well.
The voice of Jeremy Shaw there, working backwards in base 60 maths and doing the lap count as well. Jamie Howe has been down at Orica. Any joy, Jamie?
A lot of working folks down here at Orica right now. They're running through all of their calculations. They think that they are going to have to do 1 more full service stop and then perhaps another splash there at the end, but they are thinking they're going to leave Nicolas Lapierre behind the wheel of the car. He did most of the night running in this car during night practice, so they're going to try and leave him in. Right now he's feeling up to it, but there's still a lot of time left in this race, so we're not sure what could happen.
Hugh de Schonack in the middle of our picture there, just taking his spectacles off. With a little shake of the head there. I think this is going to be very tight.
I think they're going to struggle for sure. The question is whether Frank Montagny can make it. He's got about another 10 laps to do on this stint, so that's sort of 20 minutes, which will leave an hour and 15 to go. Yeah, I don't think they can get to the end of the race either. So, yeah, Peugeot might be struggling here a little bit. Fascinating stuff. This is what endurance racing is all about, though, isn't it? Great stuff. Drama from start to finish.
Okay, so now we're talking the tactical stuff. Now we're talking strategy. Now we're talking fuel and saving fuel. Earlier on, we had the door-banging, wheel-slamming, cars going off all over the place, neck-and-neck racing. And, you know, a mixture of all of that is what makes sports car racing so good. And we've been racing for 10.5 hours, and we're still working out who's got the right pit stops to make this go all the way till the end. And I'm absolutely loving it. And if this is what the rest of the season has got in store in the American Le Mans Series and the ALMS, then frankly, can we start it next week?
And Simon Pagenaud last time I did a 151.9, which is a pretty quick lap at this stage of the proceedings, about almost exactly the same lap time as our race leader Nicolas Lapierre.
Now that is the number 8 Peugeot, and what is that car ahead of him? Because that, I think, is the 01 car. Is that Montagny right up behind Simon Pagenaud? Yep, I think that is. Look at the lights on the side of the car. Is it 2 red lights and then 3 red lights? Yep, it is. Whoa, and look at that.
Yeah.
Very, very close indeed. I just saw, actually, believe it or not, it was the 9999 that I spotted on the back of the legality panels that gave it away for me just there. And Pagenaud is defending into turn 17. It's a little bit of
straight line speed.
Good straight line speed by the Highcroft. Nick Worth will be noting that down, making some calculations to go back into CFD.
Last time around, though, Montani pulled about a second and a half closer to Simon Pagenaud. This time around, about the same. So Pagenaud, so Montani is certainly quicker, but I still think he's got an extra stop to have to make.
I'm going to worry some people here. I think there's smoke coming from the back of the 01 car. Just once in a while, on the overrun, when the car is off the throttle. Now that may be because you'd think if you were leaning it off, you would get less coming out of the back rather than more, but maybe it's a function of what they're doing with the map on the engine. He's doing a fine job of keeping that Peugeot behind me. Could just be debris and dust from the circuit. Yes, there's a little bit there
of that
coming up as well. But let's watch again, particularly down the Ullman Straight from the 01 car. Simon Pagenaud, second position, despite the fact that on the left-hand side here he's only showing one marker light. On the other side there are two, I promise you. There you go, you can see it from the Porsche aerial camera. 3 lights, bright red on the side of Frank Montani's car. He looks down the inside. Oh, what an opportunist manoeuvre by Frank Montani. That was brilliant stuff. The GTC car just providing a little bit of an opportunity there for Frank Montani. And Simon Pagenaud now has got to play this cleverly, hasn't he? He can't push too hard. I'm sure he wants to have a go back at Montani, but he's in fuel-saving mode. He wants to get to the end of the Sebring 12 hours here in 2011 on one more stop.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, he can do that. And Frank Montani, he's got another pit stop coming up in about less than 20 minutes' time. And I don't think that is going to be enough to get him to the end of this race. So he's going to have to make another splash after that, and that is going to be the killer blow for Peugeot. So the last thing Highcroft Racing needs right now is a full course caution.
Yeah, they need it to go pretty much green to the end of the race. No question. Yeah.
If it goes full green to the end, they've really got a chance to pull off what will be a stunning upset.
Lapierre still doing 52.7s. He's pushing on. That suggests to me that he's got to try and get as much of a gap as possible to give himself any chance. Can I just mention something here as well? Tom Christensen and Timo Bernhard in 4th and 5th position. How Audi must be cursing their luck, particularly with the Tom Christensen car when Dindo was aboard, because they have held their ground all the way through. And with a bit of a fair wind, they would have been right in the mix. We would have had 5 cars potentially battling for the win in this race.
Yeah, we know have been absolutely flat out since they had the problem. They've been driving as fast as they possibly can, and they have been quicker than the Peugeots. How hard have the Peugeots been pushing? We don't really know, but there's no doubt about it. There hasn't been a great deal to choose between either Audi or Peugeot.
Now, Pagenaud, but on board with him.
Yeah, the Lapierre's that isn't a very interesting situation because he's got still a pretty handy lead over Montani and Pagenaud, but he's got to be. There is an outside chance he can stretch that fuel to the end of the race, and certainly if there is a full course caution, that will definitely play into his favour because he for sure can get to the end, therefore without making more than that one more pit stop. But if he can stretch it out. I think he's probably left it a little bit too late to start stretching out the fuel, but it's conceivable.
Now,
when I say it's conceivable that the 10 car can get to the finish on one more pit stop, I think it's unlikely, but it is conceivable.
It is the question, though. If you're Hugh de Chaunac, do you roll the dice? This is like I said before, with the Peugeots. The Peugeot in 2nd position as it is at the moment, and the 2 Audis in 4th and 5th. Conceivably, and he's a Peugeot customer team. He's running that car on behalf of Peugeot Sport. Yes, he's got his own sponsors. If Peugeot needed the victory to win the championship, you might expect them to pull over, but this is the first round of the series, and this is his opportunity to win a very, very big and very, very important motor race. Sebring 12 hours in itself is a great prize, but also the ILMC to go to Spa, leading the ILMC with the new Audi, the new Aston Martin coming on board. That would be a massive feather in one de Chaunac chapeau.
It certainly would, and he'll be there'll be a lot of chattering going on amongst the engineers in that team and with Hughes, I'm sure, because they've got a difficult decision to make. Do they think they can try and save enough fuel to get by with just one more pit stop, or do they have just to go for it and resign themselves to the fact that they're not going to make it? If there's a caution, then they should be okay, but if there isn't, tricky decision.
Soyela Yari is circulating again in the Nissan Signatech car. He's down to second position, of course, and he's in danger of being passed by Patrice Lafarge in the 35 P2 car, the leader in P2, well ahead now, Ryan Hunter-Reay. Well, we've been speculating. We're good at that, Jeremy and I. Let's go to the Bouche de la Horse, Cheval, which would be Hugh de Schonack. Let's get down to the pit lane.
Hugh de Schonack, you're the founder, you're the CEO of Orica. This is a huge race for you guys in the ILMC Championship. Sebring itself, a huge victory. What chances do you take, and can you make it to the end?
I think, as you say, it's a very tough race, very difficult. And I think the strategy during this race with the pit stop with the safety car was really the key point during this race. Now we have 1 hour 30. The main problem or the main recommendation that I give to the driver is no mistake. Any mistake is forbidden. The team has to do the pit stop without pressure. The driver has to do the laps without pressure, not taking any risk. We have a real chance now to finish this race, but we have to be patient because it's again 1 hour 30 minutes and it's very long.
Are you going to have to stop for fuel? Are you going to have to stop for fuel?
Yeah, I think it's a real opportunity for us, and it's a great race, one of the historical race, and for us, for the team, it's very important to be able to show till the end, and not till now, but till the flag, that we are able to have this position. It's mainly because due to the perfect job of the driver, perfect job of the team.
Will you need to have a splash at the end of the race, or will you be able to make it on one more stop?
Now we will do one more stop, and we change the driver just to be safe completely.
All right, it's going to come down to the wire here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring.
There was a wry smile at the end of that from Hugh de Schonack. He's a top guy. Been around the sport forever, had class wins all over the place. Orica has been a big name in GT racing, class wins at Le Mans, class wins in the American Le Mans Series, championship wins, but this would be the big cheese, the grand fromage for that team.
Yeah, and Hughes, as you say, he's been around the sport a long, long time, back to Formula 3 and Formula Renault, way back in the 70s and 80s. I knew him when he ran people like Alain Prost, and all the top French drivers in the 70s and 80s came through Hughes de Schonack's school, if you like, and he knows an awful lot.
One stage,
absolutely fabulous, and he's done so much for the sport in France, and it would be wonderful to see him, really get some success here at the very top level in sports car racing as well.
I suspect there'll be a lot of people with split loyalties around about now who are looking at the last hour and a half, less than that, last hour and 24 minutes, Jeremy, here on ESPN3.com and around the world on AmericanLeMans.com, that are sort of looking at that and saying, well, okay, Simon Pagenaud, the Highcroft team, and Duncan Dayton, particularly for our American listeners and viewers, those are the defending champion team. We know that they are not yet committed to a full season. They want to get a Le Mans. A win here would be fantastic for them to put in front of sponsors and potential sponsors. You've got the brand new Peugeot, the first of the new LMP1 cars, and in fairness, Peugeot have taken a chance bringing that here. They could have gone with the tried and tested car, as Audi have done, and also that would have meant the car wouldn't have been up for performance balancing before Le Mans as well. And then you've got the Hugh de Schonack story with the Orica team, as you've just mentioned. He's been part of the sport for so long, and so many people will have great memories and have their favourite Orica stories, whether it's in GT, prototype, or even through the junior formula in the single-seater classes.
Yeah, Martini Automobiles as it was way back then.
Oh, you've got a memory.
Oh no, I was there, unfortunately, covering F3 races at the time. But here we are on board again with Simon Pagenaud. He's only lost about 6 seconds to Frank Montagny since that pass was made, what, 4 laps ago. So, you know, a second or so a lap, that's neither here nor there really at this stage in the race, given the fact that we believe the Peugeot is going to have to make one more pit stop than will the HPD car.
And given what you were saying about Hugh de Schonack and his conveyor belt of talent, if not the Jackie Stewart staircase of talent from France, how appropriate then that we have 3 Frenchmen battling for the lead and potentially the win of the race. Nicolas Lapierre, Frank Montagny and Simon Pagenaud, and you know,
and another one in 5th place in Romain Dumas, and Nicolas Prost in 7th as well.
Oh my goodness!
All out
me.
on the track at the same time.
And if there was any, if you needed any persuading that the 24 Hours of Le Mans is a big thing in sports car racing and how it influences French drivers, then look no further than the timing and scoring screen at www.americanlemans.com. Tom Christensen, the interloper in the top 4. He's got a bit of history in France as well. He's done all right at the 24-hour race as well, hasn't he?
I think he's won it once or twice, hasn't he?
Yeah, he may have a future in the sports car racing, Christensen. It's not the fact that he's, you know, I keep saying this to people. Yeah, okay, he's won it 8 times, which is a phenomenal amount of victories. But it's the, relatively speaking, short amount of time that he, you know, that he beat Jackie Hicks's record in something like, I think it was less than half the amount of races that Jackie had done to win his different times, different eras. I know that, but 8 races in the amount of time that he's won. I mean, being in the right place at the right time to win Le Mans and really in the right car to win Le Mans is a skill in itself.
It's you know, it's breathtaking the achievement he has made. Look at that last lap by Frank Montagny, 150.554. That's I haven't seen every lap certainly, but I haven't seen a 50 for a while, quite frankly. Even from the great Dane Tom Christensen, who was for a while the quickest car on the track.
Yeah, should say that
Romain Dumas, I presume, must just made a pit stop in car number 1.
Yes, he has. Well spotted. GT is beginning to open out a little bit after the superb racing of early on. BMW of Joey Hand, the 56 BMW, still leads, but now has a lapse grace between itself and the 03 Corvette of Tommy Milner. Pit stop still to come into play for those cars as well, of course, before the end of the race. Dirk Werner, with terribly bad luck in the 55 car, is in 3rd place, and again he's not out of it at the moment. He's a lap further back. It's 58 seconds between Joey Hand and Tommy Milner, and Dirk Werner a little further back. Ollie Gavin rather in 4th place in the 04 Chevy Corvette, with Jimmy Bruni in 5th. Those guys on the same lap and have 23 seconds between them in 4th and 5th in GT. In GTC, Sebastian Blekemolen's been in the 054 Black Swan car for quite some time and still leads, and has the better part of a lap the last time I looked on Spencer Pumpelly in the 066 GTC car. Just going to get another look at the Tom Christensen incident with the
Frank Montagny is in the pit lane.
Montagny in the pit lane. Now, that with an hour and 10 minutes left.
It's actually a lap earlier than I expected. I expected him to go lap 291. He came in on lap 290. So he for sure is going to need a splash of fuel again to get to the end of this race after making this pit stop.
A bit more than a splash, actually.
Well,
an hour and 19 minutes.
Yeah,
I thought that was an hour and 10.
Half a tank of fuel he needs.
Yeah, exactly. Half a tank of fuel. Misread the clock there. So presumably Montagny will stay in the car.
He'd gone 24 laps on the previous stint, only 25 laps on the previous stint, only 24 laps this time around.
Well, he has been pushing, and he did that 150 the lap prior to coming in when the fuel load was bleeding off the car. And Simon Pagenaud continues to lap consistently in the mid-52s. He is on a target, isn't he? There's no doubt about that. He's in clear out at the moment. 51.5 for Nicolas Lapierre at the head of the field.
I'm guessing that was fuel only for Frank Montagny in car number 8. That will move him down to third place behind Simon Pagenaud.
Dindo Capello is climbing into the number 2 Audi, taking the place of Tom Christensen. He'll take that 4th place Audi R15 TDI into the finish this evening. 4th place, as I say, at the moment. Romain Dumas in the sister car will be due in shortly as well. They've pretended to be a couple of laps apart as they're putting a new driver in down there at Audi Sport. They'll give it a new set of Michelins as well and send Dindo on his way. Guy Smith in 6th position, the 016 Dyson, some 30 seconds behind Romain Dumas and 4 laps ahead of Nicolas Prost in the Rebellion Toyota.
So Pagenaud just went across the line. He's going, where is he now? Turn 3, I guess, isn't he? Yeah, turn. And the gap, the deficit to Nicolas Lapierre in the race leading car, number 10, 54 seconds. So he's pulled back a little bit of that deficit, and we'll have to wait and see when Nicolas Lapierre comes in for his next pit stop.
It's going to be close, you know, Jeremy.
Yep.
Because if they can get a bit, a bit of a wiggle on and get out a little bit more of time, okay, it'll come down to the pace. But you might as well send him. Hugh, it was interesting what Hugh said. Hugh's a man who picks his words. He picks his words carefully, and although English is not his first language, he knows what he's talking about. Just getting another look at the Christensen on the Audi incident. That was the 10 car of Nicolas Lapierre, wasn't it? That he attacked rather boldly into turn number 3.
It's right as Nicolas came out of the pits too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you can see from the onboard from Tom that clearly Tom thought he had an opportunity and was nowhere near getting by.
I still think he was lucky to get away with that one.
That's twice today. Christensen's gone side by side with somebody and either pushed them off the track or caused them to slide. And I think, frankly, on cumulative effect, if he'd been a soccer player, we'd have got a yellow card there. I think he's lucky not to have had more. But then again, I don't have to make the decisions. Dindo Capello now at the wheel of that car in 4th position.
And, LMPC, it's still Dane Cameron, got a lead of a little bit over a lap now over Ryan Dalziel. Ryan Dalziel is turning some very quick laps in the 005 Core Autosport car, but his last lap run was a 158.4, which is pretty good going at this stage in the proceedings, but he's got his work cut out of him if he's going to catch Dane Cameron in that 036 car.
Just looking for battles away from the head of the field. It was about 1 minute and 20 seconds between Blake Molan and Spencer Pumpelly in GTC. In GT, Joey Hand with a good minute on Tommy Milner in saying just under a minute, was it?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere about 50 seconds or so. Recently, I haven't looked for a little while, I must admit.
And Tommy Milner's got 17 seconds in hand over Dirk Werner in 3rd position. And more side-by-side action from earlier on. This was the incident that damaged the left rear wheel of the BMW, the 55 car of Dirk Werner. And eventually
probably going to cost them any chance, I think, of winning this race.
Yeah, but not out of maybe even a 2nd place. As we mentioned before, they had 2 stops to do at that time, and taking the first one when they didn't tremendously disadvantage them. On board with the 03 of Tommy Milner, a Corvette. And I've got to say, the vision from the Corvette on our onboard cameras has been considerably worse on the Corvette than any other car that we've seen. Whether that's the headlights being slightly more yellow, whether it's the shape of the car, whether it's the fact the cameras got dirtier, I'm not sure. But I'm not sure how Tommy Milner can see anything to drive that car if that's the view he's got.
Yeah, I hope he's got a better view than that is for certain.
It's like driving down the street with a candle in front of you. That was useful. Sebring at night with cars in 3 directions from the Porsche aerial cam. John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw with the last hour and a quarter. Don't forget, Long Beach in April on ESPN2 and ESPN3.com. April the 15th, Friday afternoon, live qualifying on ESPN3.com, and we'll be streaming the race on Saturday, April the 16th. And then on ESPN2 on Sunday, April the 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Follow the American Le Mans Series on ESPN and ESPN3.com. Pagenaud is absolutely on time. 52.4, 52.5, 52.6. Ah, that's a shame. That's Colin Brown.
Ouch.
Who's off the side of the circuit. He was just inside the top 10 in GT. And that's on the run down to just under the Budweiser Bridge on the run down to Chateau Alain in turn 7. Colin is out of the car and over the wall, we're being told.
I wish he'd parked it a bit closer to the fence than that. I hope that's not going to bring out a full course caution. It's not going to be good news for the race, and particularly for HPD and Highcroft Racing. I'm not quite sure why he'd leave the car there. Why not park it against the fence?
I'm presuming that it was dead stick.
Oh, yeah.
I suppose he could have still trundled, couldn't he? Now,
where were they running?
They were just inside the top 10 in GT, and they're just dropping out of the top 10 in GT now. It's the 004 Robertson Racing car. Not a bad run for that car,
well,
to be honest.
And they got both cars in the top 10 in GT. That's hats off to Robertson Racing, and Dick Barber, of course, helping out there. He's got a massive amount of experience, including wins here at Sebring. So, you know, again, there's a wealth of experience there, isn't there, in that camp? And to get those two cars, it's a privateer effort, and they're working so hard. They're just doing everything they possibly can to increase their value, their worth, and just getting better and better with every season.
Had a good long chat with David Robertson at the Motorsport on Main event before Petit Le Mans last year, and asked him why he picked to do the GT category the way he did. He could have gone and bought a Ferrari, could have gone and bought a Porsche. He said, yeah, if I'd done that, I'd have just been like any other privateer, and I'd been well down the pecking order. So the only chance I've got to pull off a really bizarre result and have my moment in the sun is if I do something different and do it on my own, and then at least I'm the master of my own destiny. Took the Doran Fords, and frankly they might as well call them Robertson Fords now, because he's pretty much re-engineered and redesigned the whole car. Now built two of them. They're both able to run on E85, which the original car was only running on E10. You mentioned they've changed the tyre suppliers for this season as well, and pulled off that amazing pole position in Petit a couple of years ago when David Murray pulled a lap out of the bag from nowhere, albeit in slightly interesting conditions, but still had to be there and was there on merit and on speed.
No question about it. And this year adding a second car on a regular basis. He ran two cars last year at Petit Le Mans, but this year adding that second car for a full season of competition, I think, is a plan with professional drivers, and that's a major commitment.
Now there's a car that was going to get pulled in by the officials, because you can't see the door numbers and you can't see anything on the side of that. That is supposed to be lit. Simon Pagenaud still just hovering around the minute 55 seconds to a minute mark behind Nicolas Lapierre. He's doing a great job for Duncan Dayton, for Highcroft, for the Michelin Supersport pilot. New tyres that they're advertising this weekend, and don't forget as well, they're one of the teams that have the Japan stickers on the car. www.highcroftracing.com. Those of you that are watching outside of the United States, the Highcroft site among many that tell you how you can donate. highcroft.com/help-Japan. There's our leader, Nicolas Lapierre, 51.9 last time around. He is pushing. You can see by the body language of the car that when he gets a clear lap, he's pushing. But the point I was going to make before about what Hugh de Schonack said, and chose his words carefully, albeit in a second language, was he said safety. He said be safe. He does not want Nicolas Lapierre to plant the car into the boonies. He wants everyone to chill out a little bit and just let the race come to them, so that there's no pressure on the driver, no pressure on the pit crew. They have one, possibly 1.5 pit stops still to come. I wonder if they'll go for tyres, Jeremy, as well.
It's going to be close. I still don't think they can quite make it on one more pit stop, but
are they going to have to leave the tyres on? because you know
well, he said he's going to change drivers. I think if they change the tyres,
well, if they change the drivers, you might as well change tyres.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Well, because you'd want to put the new guy out on a fresh set of boots, not somebody else's worn ones.
True. Plus, these it's been a while since they changed. They changed tyres 2 stints ago, so this is a double stint they're running on this set of Michelin tyres.
Fresh set of tyres to go.
No, wait a minute. No, I think did they change tyres last time around? I think they did. At the last stop, I think they did. I've got a note they did. Maybe I made my note wrong.
Well, Pagenaud certainly didn't. So I think Pagenaud in his last stop will put a fresh set of tyres on and depending on what it is, they will know how hard he will be allowed to push. They may well triple stint the tyres at this time of the night. If they do, that's fantastic. Let's go to LMP2. Ryan Hunter-Reay in the, excuse me, that's the LMP-C car. My apologies, that's Ryan DL. Right, Ryan, wrong car, my fault. Out in the darkness, my apologies. In second place in LMP-C, he's second to Dane Cameron and just a lap off the lead.
Yeah, there's
that's not over yet, you know.
No, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 cars between them, but they're all the 4 leading cars. Well, no, 4 of the 5 leading cars in GT. So, it's a lot closer. It looks on the timing and scoring charts. But Joey Hand now he's extended his lead over Tommy Milner to I think well over a minute now. And number 56 car is well out in front in GT. Tommy Milner has about 26 seconds over Dirk Vernon's 3rd place.
And electrical problems have finally put paid to the brave efforts in GT of Risi Competizione. Jamie Mello dropping down the timing and scoring monitor, now 22nd overall in the 0.62, 8th in class. Haven't been out for a few laps, and we're hearing it's Mingo in the car. They haven't swapped over the driver tags either, or the electrical problems have put that back. So electrical problems putting paid to their effort on that week-old car. Meantime, the other week-old car is just a minute and half a second, 1 minute 0.582 behind Nicolas Lapierre, and that is still the interest at the head of the field. Quite often we're looking around, maybe at any kind of sporting event that goes on for 12 hours. By the time you've only got an hour left to go, you might well be looking around for some sort of interest, but not here. It's right at the head of the field, and Nicolas Lapierre continues to just churn out these laps. 152.9 last time, and he was passing cars doing that. Simon Pagenaud 154.4. He's losing a little bit of time. Montani's pushing as well. 152.1, but surely Montani, well, we know Montani definitely has to make another stop. There's no way that he could go an hour and 20 minutes in that new Peugeot. Dindo Capello in 4th place, still just on 6 laps behind the leaders, and Audi again, you know.
It's still going to be close for Nicolas Lapierre. He's got at least another 3 laps he can do on this fuel stint, maybe 4, and I think he can stretch it to 5 more. But if he could, that might be enough to get into the end. It's still going to be, as I said, what was it, an hour and a half ago? It is going to be close.
The thing about this and the Orica situation is, it's almost out of their hands, isn't it? Because they've got to make the decision of which way they're going to jump. I think they're going for one more stop because he's eased his pace just a tad. I think they're going for one more stop. If it doesn't work, then they're going to either run out of fuel or they will not have enough to increase their pace if Simon Pagenaud starts to pressurise them. And this is going to be the key. This last pit stop, tyres, no tyres, and how much fuel actually physically goes into that car to get them to the end. Therefore, how hard you think that car can push. It's going to be absolutely frantic.
They really need to stay out on track for about another 12 or 13 minutes before they make that final stop. And right now it's like 2.99 now for that car. So they've done 23 laps since the last pit stop. They can do 25 or 26 generally, and because this is such a long lap, sometimes one substitute's 25, next one's 26, next one has to be 25. So it's, as I say, it's going to be tight.
And as we saw with Timo Bernhard, it's no use getting 25 3/4.
Yeah, really.
And just squeaking into the pit lane. Frank Montani's pushing on again, you know, in third position. He's got the gap between himself and Simon Pagenaud down to 40 seconds between the 8 Peugeot in third position and the 01 of the Highcroft Racing team in second place.
Two other guys who are flying and doing a fabulous job. The Romain Dumas, who's catching Dinder Capello pretty quickly, is still quite a long way behind. And also Guy Smith. Let's hand it to Guy Smith in the Dyson Racing number 016. He is now still within a minute of Romain Dumas and turning
in a P2 car.
Effectively a P2 car, yeah, running in the P1 class. But you know, it's a good effort by Dyson Racing all around, and Guy Smith is turning some of his best laps of the race, 153.2 last time around for the Englishman.
Actually bodes well for the rest of the American Le Mans series with those guys being so competitive, although clearly there's a lot of more performance to come from the 01. But we don't know if the 01's going to be doing the rest of the series yet.
That's right, and it's certainly a shame also that the muscle milk car, the Lola Aston Martin's had a problem, and it's long gone, isn't it?
Yeah. Just Romain Dumas, quickest man on the track last time around, although Nicolas Lapierre all of a sudden has dropped down into the 51s again after being in the high 52s, low 53s for a while. But traffic's going to do that. Don't read too much into that, dear viewer and listener.
These onboard shots, I mean, you know, it's mainly dark out there, but I just love watching these onboard shots from particularly in the open cockpit car. You know, we see the dash there, and it's such a great picture.
Apologies to those of you who can't see the pictures. Actually,
well, yes.
You are missing a treat. I know. I'm sorry if we've been waxing lyrical about this, but you know, we commentate from the pictures that we get in the booth, have done, you know, for years here in the American Le Mans series, and we're just blown away by what we're seeing. You will see highlights wherever you are in the world. There'll be highlights on programmes such as Mobil One The Grid on Channel 4 in the UK on Saturday morning at 7:30. Also Motorsport Mundial around the world. If you're here in the States, don't forget that the 12:30 show is on ESPN on ABC, 12:30 Eastern tomorrow. And if you're listening on RadioLeMans.com, I promise we will be going back to our more normal radio style of commentary for the next race, although there will be full live coverage of that in Europe on Motors TV from Paul Ricard, the first round of the Le Mans series, coming up in a few weeks' time.
Nicolas Lapierre is taking no prisoners. He dived down inside of the car, didn't he, into that final corner, coming onto the Allman Straight. He comes past one more time, so he's going to complete lap 3:01 this time. So he has now done 25 laps on this stint of fuel. We'll see if he comes in next time around. I think he's going to need a really small splash of fuel to get to the end of the race from there. If he could do one more lap after that, maybe there's a chance for him.
38 seconds between Montani and Pagenaud. Montani's really got the hurry up, and Jamie Howe in the pit lane is looking at the pit board, looking at the team. It's Orica Matmut, and I think he's coming in this time around. End of this lap, it'll be the end of lap 302 for Nicolas Lapierre into the pit lane. The key question, Jeremy, yes, they're ready. They've got tyres ready as well. Now, they may wave the tyres off. The Michelin technician will have a look, and there's going to be a driver change. I think what you said was right. They're going to have the driver change, and that'll mean a fresh set of boots, a fresh driver as well. It's a risk putting somebody in full darkness if he's going to have to fight till the end, but he's likely to be fresher rubber. So again, it's that compromise thing, isn't it?
But coming in on this lap, I don't see any way they can get to the end of the race from here without making a very short splash. It's only going to be for a lap or two of fuel, but if they come in this time around, I don't think there's any way. So in that case, they've got to hope for a full course caution, in which case they have to get that car in the fastest possible trim it can be.
Yeah, I'd be going for the softest tyre I dare now to go at the end. You know you've only got 58 minutes of running to go as we head into the final hour of racing here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Softest tyre that you dare, fresh driver, brim that tank full of diesel. In comes the leader, Nicolas Lapierre, for what Hugh de Chaunac and all of France hopes will be the last pit stop, and Jamie Howe is down in the Orica Matmut pit waiting, as are the rest of his team.
Nicolas Lapierre brings the car to a stop for Team Orca. The team gets to work cleaning off the windshield. Luke Duval getting behind the wheel right now. They are going to put on a fresh set of Michelin tires. Now the team has done some very intense calculations. They know if this is a perfect stop, that it's going to take them 1 minute and 15 seconds from the time they pull into the pits until they get back onto the racetrack. Right now it looks like the fuel is still going into this car. Luke Duval is still getting strapped in. Team is ready with the fresh set of Michelin tires. They want to make sure they get every ounce of it in there because they might need a splash at the end. It's going to be very close for this team. This will be a game changer. Luke Duval freshly strapped in, ready to go as soon as these Michelins are on. He's down, off the jack. The car fired up straight away, and they are off. Terrific stop for Orica Matmut.
Yes, but 49 minutes between the last two stops, 58 minutes to go in this motor race.
Here's Pagenaud coming down. There he goes, past him in the pit lane. Pagenaud's gone through. Oh my goodness me. This is going to be so tight. Pagenaud has taken over the lead of the race, but of course he's got a pit stop to go as well.
Correct, and we expect that in probably 3 laps time, so 6 minutes or so. Again, it is awfully tight. It's great. I love it. The strategy has really been panning out over the last, particularly in the last 2 or 3 hours. I mean, the engineers on teams, they've been way ahead of that, of course, because they can see all the fuel burn numbers. They know exactly how much fuel is being used at whatever particular lap time they happen to be doing. But
here's the leader in GT, Joey Hand, and Rick de Bruyne is on GT down at BMW.
Last time they came in a little bit early because they were concerned that they might have had a flat tire. That didn't prove to be the case, but as a result, it didn't hurt him because it didn't cause any problem with getting off cycle. Now the big job is just to do this as simply as possible to do it right. It's the last pit stop they'll hopefully have to make when they go to green. That's what they're hoping at this point in time. They got the fuel in, having a problem with the right rear tire, but they get it on. Now they go to the right front and the left rear. So far, everything's relatively smoothly. They just need to make sure that they don't have any problem like they had in that first hour where they had a flat tire. They need to stay trouble-free to the end.
Bring it home, babe.
That's Scott Remke on the radio there. Bring it home, babe, he says to Joey Hand.
Now he comes out to merge at the outside of turn number 1, looking in his left-hand door mirror to make sure there's no one likely to run into him. But he is down and through as the second of the BMWs goes through. Third position for Dirk Werner. Back to Rick.
And once again, the same situation. Now they're taking tear-offs off the windshield. They're taking tear-offs off of the headlights. They want to make it so that everybody can see everything they have to be able to see. Remember, this particular car, third in GT right now, had some damage earlier in the day to the left front. Hasn't caused any serious problems, but as a result, they had to be a little bit more tender at one point in time. But the car overall has run well with one particular problem that happened a little bit earlier. They just want to stay trouble-free to the end. The job now is not to get any trouble. Make sure the pit stop goes smoothly, and then once they get back on the track, make sure they avoid all contact with any other cars out there.
Yeah, watch your speed limiter.
Yeah, don't do that now. Don't blow the speed limiter now. That would not be go down very well with Mr. Rahal. The BMWs, other than the fact that they've been a magnet for other cars, hitting them and causing them problems, have actually, whatever the result is, and it looks like they've got an opportunity for a first and a third here, 2 steps on the podium, but they've actually run pretty well. It's other people who've caused their problems.
Indeed it is. A team that has been pretty much perfect all the way through this race so far is the 036 Genoa Racing. It's Dane Cameron who's done the lion's share of the driving on board that car. He's a youngster but with an enormous amount of ability. He's sharing it with Michael Gouache and Jens Peterson, and you know he's the class driver in this car. And as long as the other two have done their minimum driving stints, which is what, is it an hour? Or is it 90 minutes? I can't remember now. But certainly Dane has done the lion's share of the work. But the other two have done a nice job as well. They haven't put a foot wrong, and they've given that car back to Dane Cameron to finish off this race.
Well, Tommy Milner for the moment has assumed the lead in GT.
Yep.
And that is on board the 03, the slightly less than perfect view forward. And Tommy Miller in the 03 Chevy Corvette. Now, I think he might still also stop before the end of this race. He's got something like 20 seconds on Joey Hand, and that will go, the advantage will be back to the BMW driver when Tommy has to bring that car in. I tell you what though, it's a nice debut for Tommy Milner.
Oh yes.
In the Corvette team. Spoke to him at the Rolex 24. First person I see when I walk in the Rolex 24 is an ALMS driver, and he was absolutely bouncing off the rev limiter. So happy to be in the Corvette team. He's a very, very talented driver, lovely lad. And as Ollie Gavin comes in out of third position in the 04 Corvette, that's a good recovery drive from those guys after Jan Magnussen had that damage earlier on. That car, I think that car went behind the wall actually at one stage. Certainly had a lot of time in the pit lane for the right rear damage where it was hit by Pat Long. Just to finish the thought on Tommy Milner. Tommy Milner, of course, we talked about Lucas Ordonez in the Nissan from the GT Academy virtual reality driving. Tommy Miller is an avid driver of video games, and BMW themselves have been instrumental and indeed part of the BMW team at the Dubai 24. Was the Shift 2 Unleashed team where they were gathering data for that particular game, and Joey Hand Tommy Milner is one of the guys who was test driving the cars in virtual reality. Here's and stuff. And here he is on pit roads, Tommy Milner, with his final stop. This should be fairly standard. Tommy Milner used to night driving, but he will give up the lead back to Joey Hand when Joey comes around. In fact, I think he has already gone through. The question will be, can the 03 car get out in front of its teammate? Jan Magnussen now at the wheel of the 04 car after its stop. I think there was a lap in hand between those.
Go. All clear, bud.
Encouraged back into the race. Tommy Milner heads back out in the 04 Chevy Corvette. Not been a clean race for very many people in GT. There is Joey Hand back in the lead of the race and will be scored as such next time around. If you're around the circuit, listen to us on the PA or on one of the scanner frequencies, or in fact on the AM transmission, and you'll still see two lights on the side of that car. And this is the timing beam next time around. It's starting to get a bit dusty and a bit murky out there, it looks to me, Jeremy. It's not just my eyes. A bit more rubbish being thrown up from the circuit, perhaps. And just a little bit Sebring, you know, we've had everything today. Fog this morning in the warm-up, and then the sunshine, the heat, then the sun going down, then the darkness, and now dustiness. Here comes Simon Pagenaud into the pit lane. This is the race right here. The 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring comes down to this, and Simon Pagenaud brings the 01 championship defending ALMS car into the pit lane for what they hope will be the final time. Kelly Stavist.
Simon Pagenaud comes to a stop, and they'll begin fueling, and you'll see that they've got some fresh Michelins waiting for him. So the 12 hours will come down to whose pit strategy will pay dividends. We heard Duncan Dayton say he thinks they only need one more stop, but there was the slightest amount of hesitation. So this could be the last time we see Highcroft here in the pits. Simon Pagenaud's job now is to keep pace while saving fuel and hope that those Peugeots are going to have to make one more stop at least for a splash of fuel. So right now as they finish fueling up this Highcroft Honda, and then they'll get some fresh tires on it, and Simon should be out if everything runs smoothly.
And the previous stint for Simon Pagenaud was 50 minutes long. This stint was 51 minutes. We have 48 minutes to go in this race. So assuming they've got that car brim full, he should be good to go.
Needs to put his headlights on, and he has done.
It's still, this race is still not over, I tell you. He's going to come out now with quite a deficit to the Peugeots, or at least particularly the number 10 car. And so, you know, if Loic Duval can really turn it on here, then, you know, this race is not over. It's not over yet. Even if the number 10 car has to make one more pit stop, which I'm pretty sure it will have to do, it won't be stationary for very long, and it's probably only going to be 1 lap short of the finish, 1 or maybe 2 laps short of the finish. So this is nail-biting stuff in all the camps.
Is Montani and the number 8 Works Peugeot, you think they're out of it? Because they made their last stop with 1 hour and 20 minutes, 1 hour and 19 minutes to go, and clearly they have to make another stop, and I can't see Montani being able to make that back.
No, I don't think they can, but it's not going to be a full stop. It's only going to be a half a stop for that car, for car number 8. We're watching the Loic Duval back into the lead in the Orica Matlock car. As I say, I reckon he's going to be a lap or 2 short to get into the end of this race unless there is a full course caution. Frank Montagny, there he is now, coming past to move up into 2nd place, and he is the gap deficit between the 2 Peugeots, 24 seconds, a fraction under. And he is certainly going to have to make another pit stop. We'll see, you know, what the deficit is now that Pagenaud will have against Frank Montagny. So we're going to have to wait a little while before Simon Pagenaud comes around. It's probably going to be 30 seconds or so. So, you know, might be less than that, actually. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. There's 3 cars still in contention to win this race.
How long do you think he needs to get down pit lane, put in a splash of fuel, get out again? I think it's something around about a minute, maybe a little bit more.
I don't think it's quite that long.
Well, you lose a lot of time because the front straight is so quick. You compromise your exit from 17. And we've got someone on the dirt at the moment. It looks like one of the challenge cars, kicking up all kinds of tyre dirt, and as far as Duncan Dayton's concerned, he would have had his heart in his mouth there. But that is good news to see that car rejoin. It's got no lights on the number on the side, which is not making our life any easier. I have not a clue what that car is. It's one of the challenge cars. That's about all I can say.
You know, having to take those tyres on that stop for Simon Pagenaud, this is not in a bag by any means. In fact, I reckon Duval can still win this race. This is great stuff. This is a fascinating cat and mouse game. It's all about strategy, when you have to change tyres and when you don't.
I'm surprised they took tyres.
Hey, I am, frankly, although the previous stop was fuel only, so they've already double stinted that set of tyres.
Maybe they had to.
Yeah, quite.
Oh, mistake by Pagenaud there. Missed his braking point and therefore missed his turning point, but he didn't lock up the wheels. He's got that back under control nicely. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide when you've got these onboards. With Loic Duval leading Frank Montagny, the 2 Peugeots 1 and 2. Montagny definitely needs to give us another pit stop before the end of this race in 45 minutes time in the number 8 car. Loic Duval perhaps needs a splash of fuel. Simon Pagenaud in 3rd position. Now he has been the man, he has been the mouse, now he's the cat. He's got to chase and push hard in the 01 Highcroft car. This is a brand new car to them, and I'm not sure if they know it well enough to be able to push. Ryan Hunter-Reay leads P2, Dane Cameron LMPC, and this is the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
Well, we're at Sebring. We have 43 minutes of racing to come, and you can follow the American Le Mans Series all series long for the whole 9-race competition. Next, we're at Long Beach in April. Join us on ESPN2 and ESPN3.com. Live coverage of qualifying on Friday afternoon, April the 15th on ESPN3.com. And then we've got live streaming race coverage on Saturday, April the 16th. Then, of course, you can watch the race on ESPN2 on Sunday, April the 17th. That's from 5 till 7 p.m. Eastern. The American Le Mans Series all season long on ESPN. There's our leader.
Yeah, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Is Loic Duval. He's turning a series of consistently quick laps, and if he keeps this up, I think he's just about going to have enough. Well, I think he's going to have enough time to come in and make that splash and go with maybe a couple of laps to go. And assuming there's no dramas on the outlap or with the fueling or anything else, he should be good to win this race.
Would that be the all things being equal quote, really? Which things are seldom. He doesn't need to. What he doesn't need to do is get caught up in a gaggle of GT cars. He doesn't need to be offline and get his tyres dirty and lose a couple or 3 seconds for 2 or 3 laps running while he's going past the GT cars in the dirt. He's got to play a very careful and relatively long game for this next 40 minutes, and Loic Duval is going to be hearing all kinds of weird noises from that car right now.
What he's got to do is put his foot to the floor, because he's going to have to make another pit stop, so he's got to run as fast as he can, pull out as much of an advantage as he can to be able to make that pit stop and still come out ahead of Simon Pagenaud. And I think he can do it. He's turned a 151.1 last time.
Montani's in the pits. Second place car in the pits. 41 minutes to go. We knew that he would have to come in. This is pretty much... that's interesting. That's exactly halfway through the gap from the last time that he stopped. So he's getting in now so that he's good to go all the way to the end.
So he doesn't get caught if there is a full course caution. That's why.
Absolutely. And it's Rick de Bruyl who's down in the Peugeot works pit.
Originally, when they were talking to Frank Montanet, they were saying that they were going to bring him in about another 5 laps beyond this. Obviously, they've moved it up. Their goal to put in a little bit of fuel, enough to get him to the very end of this race. And then let's see if they're going to change tires. They're getting poised. They're getting ready. It looks like they're going to be making the change. Remember, they started this race saying that they didn't expect to win, but now that they're this close, you know they want to do it. They're putting on fresh tires. They're going to have enough fuel. They're going to have fresh tires. The orders to Frank Montanet is going to be go all out. Do everything you can to chase down those guys ahead and do it. This is your chance to win, but they've got a problem. They've killed the engine here on pit lane. It's going to cost them a few more seconds. They got the right front they had to go back and work on. They came off the jack just a little too soon, and that was the problem. So it spent just a few more seconds in pit lane. You know, you get down to the wire in a race like this, seconds begin to count so much, and you're trying to figure out a way to make 2 extra seconds, and instead you lose 10.
That's absolutely disastrous. Jamie Howe is down in pit lane.
A little bit of a change of strategy for the number 10 team, Oregon Matmut. They're in the pits for the splash of fuel right now. What they're trying to avoid, they're trying to avoid a safety car period. They're afraid that they're going to be so tight on fuel at the end that if the safety car comes out, they're going to have to come in and make a splash under yellow and not be able to get enough in to finish. So now they are good to the end of this race.
That is brilliant strategy by Hugh de Chaunac. He takes, he brim fills the car, good to go to the end, and now he knows that it's a straight fight, and that may well have just won him the race in the way that Frank Montanet's chances, slim though they were, have now gone to none after they dropped the car off the jack too early. Not the first time we've seen that happen in pit lane. We've also got Romain Dumain, the number 1 Audi in pit lane. Hugh de Chaunac knows he's on camera, and he knows that there is a big race victory in his grasp. It's there. He can touch it nearly. He can smell it. Certainly. Can he see it on the horizon? Definitely.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, that was definitely the smart move. Get that pit stop out of the way. They did not want to be caught out by the full course caution.
I'm going to throw something in here, and you're going to hate me for saying this, Jeremy. Pagenaud's in second place, and that probably saves Hughes' victory, doesn't it? Because if it had been the works car in second place, might he have been asked to move over?
Well.
They can't do it now unless Frank Montani gets back into second place, and I don't think he can do that.
No, I'm not quite sure why they would have changed tyres there on the number 8 car. They changed tyres on the previous stop.
Yeah.
So I didn't really see the need for a fresh set on that 8 car. And you know, it cost them an extra, 25-30 seconds probably, particularly with that miscue.
Probably cost him second place.
Yeah,
any chance of second place?
Did that. Yeah, because that's cost them, you know, if it cost him at least 20 seconds for sure.
Yeah.
And right now he's, 30 seconds behind Simon Pagenaud, so that one baffles me. I mean, the only chance they've got now is if there is a full course caution. Whereas
yeah, everybody's closed up.
Have a problem,
only the top 3 on the lead lap. We're heading into the last 37 minutes of racing here at Sebring 2011. Let's go to GT now. This is the battle for second position that we're looking at now. The 03 of Tommy Milner, the Chevy Corvette, is under pressure from Dirk Werner, former teammates, these two, and the pass is made. The 55 car goes back up into second place, and Bobby Rahal has his cars, the BMW Motorsport entries, back into positions 1 and 2. Well, that's a fabulous drive back from those guys. Both BMWs have had trouble, not necessarily of their own making. Let's go to Rick de Bril down the pit lane, who has more.
I've been listening on the radio as Scott Remke has been talking his driver Dirk through this whole thing, slowly but surely telling him how much time, how much space he's got left, and telling him to run down. One thing I did ask earlier was whether they had enough fuel to make it all the way in for both cars, as a matter of fact, because you got to remember that Corvette actually stopped a little later, so if it was tight, the Corvette would have the advantage. Talked to the 56 car, I should say, which is in the lead. They said, yeah, we think so. But when I talked to Scott Remke about the 55, he says, you bet your, and I won't go where else he went with that. But the bottom line is they think that they can run as hard as they can to the finish, and their job was to chase down second place.
Well, the BMWs are quick down the back straight. They're being passed at the moment by Dindo Capello and the number 2 Audi from the Porsche Helicam. We can see the BMW just eked out maybe a length, maybe a couple of lengths. It looked for a moment as though Tommy Milner was stiffing around the rear 3/4 panel of the second place BMW. That second place is not in the bag yet for Dirk Werner. He's going to have his hands full with Tommy Milner, and if there's any traffic, that is going to be a real concentration, really important part of the concentration for the drivers, getting through the traffic without losing, and also being passed. And the leaders coming through can also make a huge amount of difference. Faster cars coming by, these GT runners, it's their hardest job in the world to be the GT drivers. You've got a class or 2 slower than you and 2 or 3 classes quicker than you. There's a real art to letting the leaders by without messing up your own lap.
There's another fact. You know, I'm curious as to why the Peugeot team, the factory Peugeot team, car number 8, decided that they couldn't double stint those tyres at the final portion of this race.
Well, maybe they've gone on to something softer, because a 1:51.1 from Frank Montani has cut the gap between himself to Pagenaud to 26 seconds. Simon Pagenaud has just been told on the radio to go to fuel map 4. I have no idea what that means. I don't know what map he was on before that, and whether higher is richer or higher is on 4 is leaner. That's the 01 car. Is there now a slight concern for Pagenaud to make it to the end in 34.5 minutes time? They're the leading American Le Mans Series car.
Minus 34 and plus 23. Minus 34 plus 23. 34 minutes remain.
And those numbers were minus 34 to Loic Duval. That's seconds to the leader. And plus 23 from Frank Montani from the 8 Peugeot in second place. It's a very calming voice that Rob Hill has, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super clear, isn't it? I mean, there's no ambiguity. It's absolutely crystal clear what he says, and the radios are pretty good these days, so Simon Pagenaud knows exactly what Rob Hill said and what he meant.
again, at the risk of cheesing off people who can't see the pictures, the dashboard is absolutely crystal clear on Simon Pagenaud's. If I knew what all of those little gauges meant, and now I know that I can see that, I am going to go and find out what they mean.
He's still saving fuel in there, Simon Pagenaud.